Gentlemen, and we're delighted to welcome you to the second live streaming session of the Virtual Game Fair. We've quite a bit to get through this afternoon, so I'll run quickly through the programme of events so that those of you who wish to pop in and out can pop in and out, or those of you who wish to stay for the whole period will have an enjoyable session, we hope. We have Steve McGonigal joining us later. Unfortunately, Ingrid Howers has tested positive for COVID, and so obviously we're socially responsible and asked her to stay at home. But we have Gary McCartney from Countryside Alliance, and we've George Logan from Living History Ireland, the East Antrim Hunt, and wherever else, but a good constituent of John Blair's from South Antrim, and we'll have something to say about the hunting bill as we go through. But running quickly through, we have a video clip from 2010 at Stormont when an anti-hunting bill raised its ugly head. We've a video of the launch of the Irish Country Sports, a Heritage book done by George. Then we've a Red Mills video and competition. We've the best Christmas present that anyone could buy from his Swarovski. I've asked Aring for it, but I don't know whether I'll get it. Then we look at the hunting bill that has just recently been defeated, and the Field Sports Channel produced a very good session on that. Gary was involved, I was involved, and of course John Blair was involved. I'm a great supporter of Field Sports Channel. This is their mask, and we hope to have Charlie over at the Game Fair in 22. Following on from the hunting video, where various people were involved, we thought that we would invite some people from the Terrier Nurture fraternity to submit a few videos. A lot of them wished to come, but obviously because the bill, we thought the bill mightn't be defeated at that stage, and they were going to come in as guests. But basically, they've submitted little videos. Kieran Young, who's the Terrier Nurture director of the Game Fair, he also runs a very successful Mourn show, and he's a member of the Irish Working Terrier Federation. He's passionate about hunting with dogs. We have Jed Donna, who is the Terrier Nurture representative of Country Sports Ireland, Ronan Gorman's organisation. Ronan sends his apologies. He had hoped to be here as well, but unfortunately he has illness in the family. And finally, we have Owen Mulcahy, the secretary of the Irish Working Terrier Federation. This is the body that lays down the rules for terrier work, and very, very fine organisation. We helped them get up and running because we thought it important that there be a code of conduct for terrier work. And Owen and his group, with a membership throughout Ireland, certainly tries to enforce a code of conduct. We then go on to look at the 22 Game Fair, look forward to it. Hopefully this year that it will happen. We have lots of new attractions. We've most of our stand base from 2 years ago when we had to postpone in place. And so we're looking at the ways we can make this the biggest and best game fair in 22. We have an excellent video still in the Antrim area on Point to Point, the East Antrim Point to Point, again produced by George. And one apology we have to make, we'd hoped to show the video of the Ulster Golden Retriever Club, but unfortunately there's been a problem with the guy who was producing it. We will be showing that separately on our YouTube channel. And for those Golden Retriever people who have signed in, we have a special prize for them, a limited edition book that I produced some years ago of the Golden Retriever in Ireland. Very rare because it's a quarter leather. And any Golden Retriever people, we think you'll find the programme interesting. But this is a chance to win a prize, a special prize for Golden Retriever people. So simply when you're liking the programme, put a little note in that you're interested in winning the Golden Retriever book. We have many other prizes here. You can see a good range of prizes. We've got a couple of limited edition prints, one of the Master McGrath and Mick the Miller, a very fine woodcock print from John Moore, and we have a series of books that Paul Morgan from Cocky Bundu gave us. We've got lurchers, we've got game cookery, we've got shooting, fishing. So all you have to do to win one of these books is to, again, sign in, put your name in, say the sort of book that you want, and you'll go into the draw. We have bags of dog food from Feedwell and Red Mills, and our top prize is a Barber jacket and a night B&B in the Dun Adri Hotel in Antrim. So again, everyone who shows an interest in the programme, signs in on the page, will go into that draw, and you can specify what other prize you would like to win as well or as an alternative. So there we are, and without further ado, we'll go on to look at the programme. It has been a cause for celebration in the last couple of weeks. First of all, obviously, we managed to produce the Irish Country Sports Heritage book. This has been some time in the planning. It is a book that we think will be one that is handed down from generation to generation. It's the first book in a generation. We produced some years ago, we produced the, where'd it go? Oh, there's it there. We produced the Irish Field Sports and Angling Handbook. Fine in its day, but the quality you can see is completely different, and of course this is much larger. It's a living history produced by a lot of people, and we think that, as you say, it will stand the test of time. Second thing was very, very important for all country sports and not just hunting, was the defeat of the anti-hunting bill brought forward to Stormont by John Blair. When I say defeat, I don't think, while we're celebrating to a degree, Gary, I think it's true to say that we won the skirmish. We didn't even win the battle, and we certainly haven't won the war.
No, I think this is only going to come back again, as Declan McAleer said from Sinn Féin. It will come back up in the next mandate. So this is our time to prepare and make sure that we have everything that we can do, and do everything that we can do to ensure that the next time it comes, that it's defeated once again.
Yes, what it has done is given us time to plan, time to get organised properly, because this came out of the blue a bit, because John has been a good supporter, certainly of the Game Fair when he was Vice Chairman of the Deputy Mayor of Antrim and Newnabbey Council. He also was a very good supporter when he was with Deira Fisheries, in that he supplied the fish for the Puddingtick fishery. In fact, in one of the clips you'll see John fitting across the screen in that role. And at various, we involved John in the fair because he obviously is a good representative in a lot of ways for the area, and we involved him in the openings of the fair, and we involved him in the press receptions. And you know and I know he's on record as saying that when he went to Stormont, country sports had a friend in him at Stormont. Now, I know John tries to differentiate between country sports and hunting as if they're two different things, but I think all of us here, and when Stephen comes, he will say the same thing. Hunting is part of country sports, an integral part of country sports. And if you attack hunting, you attack all of us. I think that comes across very clearly, Gary.
Yes, very much so. And again, that was shown within the support that we got, because we got support from all around Ireland, and we had even people like the Ulster Angling Federation who went on in the Field Sports Britain piece and said that this was only the thin end of the wedge, and again that anglers should support the rest of the field sports community. And it was fantastic to see that everybody pulled together. It was actually astounding that we all seen the threat, whether or not it was shooting, hunting or fishing, and we all come to assist that, and obviously we got the successful defeat on Monday. It was a triumph for us all coming together, and that's something that we need to continue to build on to work on into the future.
Yes, that's very important that we move forward together. We in the Great Game Fairs of Ireland, our country lifestyle exhibitions, have been at the forefront in some ways of trying to push back against these initiatives from the anti-hunting lobby. We launched the Game Fair at Clannyboy in 1979, followed by the Irish Field Sports and Angling Handbook in 1984. We then launched Irish Hunting, Shooting and Fishing magazine in 1985, followed by the Irish Country Sports and Country Life magazine in 2001. We launched the Virtual Game Fair in 2020, and now we've got the Irish Field Sports and Angling Handbook. We've a reach of several thousand, hundreds of thousands of people through those media, and we intend to use those to fight back and push back against the misinformation that's being put out. We think we've produced a platform to promote and defend country sports, the preservation of the rural way of life, and most importantly, we are committed conservationists. We want to see good, planned, balanced biodiversity in the countryside. Over the programme, hopefully Stephen, when he comes, and Gary and George will explain how we can help to push back against the misinformation going forward over the next year. So we'll take a look back now at the last time. We launched the Irish Country Sports Heritage Book at Stormont. We felt we'd like to take it back there, and we felt that the book deserved to have the opportunity to introduce country sports, or reintroduce the benefits of country sports to the MLAs and to other people and the media. Now, we've used Stormont on previous occasions to promote the game fairs and to promote country sports, and so we'll take a little look back at 2010 when we first used Stormont.
Hi, welcome to Field Sports Britain. Today we're at Stormont, Northern Ireland's Parliament. But today, there's no political skin and hair flying. What we're going to do is celebrate the Great Game Fairs of Ireland 2010 and the launch of the Year of the Horse. I'm Paul Pringle. I'm your host for today. You'll enjoy the show. Why exactly are we here today? Well, we're going to show off the best of field sports, and we're going to make a point. First, a question to you, Tom Fulton, as Chairman of the Hunting Association of Northern Ireland. Is hunting alive and well today?
It is, Paul. It is. It could be a lot stronger, obviously, more people seek to join us, but it's alive and well.
What sort of numbers turn out these days? Is it just as good as always, or is it increasing?
There are increases with some packs, others are holding their own, but in general there will be more people than, say, 5 years ago.
Okay, legislation in the UK, well, we've all seen that turn against hunting. In fact, some people from there actually come across to Ireland to hunt. Is there anything threatening that would stop hunting in Northern Ireland?
There is I think it's a motion, I should call it, going before Stormont next week to put the hare, or the Irish hare, on Schedule 5, which would effectively deal. We're hoping that doesn't happen, because the best conservators of the hare are the people who hunt it, and that's true of animals in general. Where there's hunting in a strong way, then the quarry species are strong too.
Ms. Brown, turning to you now. Another hunting enthusiast, and a hunting commentator, and a writer. Do you think hunting's flourishing in your part of the world?
Well, certainly hunting has got great support, both from those who participate and from the farmers and landowners who welcome us across their land. I am president of the Irish Masters of Beagles Association, do all my hunting on foot, and we've seen increased numbers of people coming out hunting with the foot hounds over the last few years. That might be symptomatic of recession and perhaps people not able to afford to do other more expensive forms of the sport, but we've got plenty of followers, and really the only cloud on the horizon is this threat to place the Irish hare under permanent protection, which would be a great handicap to us, because although beagling and foot harriers doesn't has as an objective the killing of hares, we simply want to see hares running in their natural environment. The misguided politicians seem to think that our sport needs to be stopped, so we're lobbying very hard at the moment to find an alternative solution to balance the conservation with the hunting.
Okay, so you're trying for a sensible
arrangement, because we've always had the hare protected under the Game Acts, and we feel that's where the protection should lie.
Is it an endangered species, in fact?
Well, the experts on the matter are the Quercus Research Group from Queen's University, and they seem to think that the population levels are stable and that there's no pressure genetically on the population, that it should be able to maintain its levels. And they see that field sports actually have a positive role to play in the conservation, in that areas where field sports are practiced, hare numbers tend to be higher.
Okay, thank you very much. You'll be at the Game Fair at Shane's Castle next week, and no doubt the one in Birr County Offaly later on in August. Will all the supporters be there too? Will Hunting Pink be in full cry?
Well, there'll certainly be some Hunting Pink on display, but the real purpose is to take the hounds to meet those people who don't normally hunt, to give them an opportunity to see the hounds and the horses, and get an opportunity to talk to people who do hunt.
Well, that was 2010, and once at that stage, again, the anti-hunting bills were pushed back. Again, Liz and her beagles will be at, God willing, will be at Shane's Castle this year to meet the public. And again, we hope to have a big hunting display at Shane's Castle this year. We hoped that it wasn't going to be an obituary for hunting, but obviously, as you say, it was a warning. We would have loved to have had the horse and hounds back at Stormont this year, but because of COVID restrictions, we were very limited number of people we could actually have at the launch, and they certainly were. The Stormont authorities weren't terribly keen to have, obviously, a lot of the hunting people there. Because of the restrictions and the difficulty of operating within that. However, what we did have, as you'll see in the video, we had people from all over Ireland, the length and breadth of Ireland, people who had contributed to the book. And it was lovely to hear the range of accents. It was lovely to see that people, not in the full flush of youth, had travelled from Wexford, Galway, Donegal, Midlands of Ireland, Dublin, etc., all over Ireland to come because they saw the importance of the launch of the book, and they contributed, and obviously they had contributed to it. And so from that point of view, I was delighted that we were able to launch at Stormont. Some of these people had never been in Stormont before. They thought it was a beautiful building, and it led to a certain grandeur to it. We had a few technical problems because of their sound system, which interfered with our video, as George can maybe comment on. But certainly, that aside, it was a very successful launch. And I'd like to ask Steve McGonigal, who has just arrived post-haste from Donegal, to come and say something on the book. Can you knock my mic off? Waiting for you to come and say something about this book and then something about your own book. Stephen was one of the contributors to the Field Sports and Angling Handbook. And he wrote a very fine chapter on greyhounds, terriers, lurchers, teckles, rabbits, what else? But perhaps, Stephen, you would take the viewers through what is in the book, who contributed to it, and why you think it is something that every country sports person should have in their library.
I actually even haven't had a proper chance to have a good look through it yet. I don't have one. I didn't get one.
No, I didn't give you one. But okay. We'll run through the chapter headings. We start off. We had a foreword by Jim Shannon, a very, very good support of country sports. Basically, a country sports MP, I think. As we are now referring to John Blair as the Lax MLA, we always refer to Jim Shannon as the country sports MP. We also asked Bill Montgomery, and I'm sure Bill won't mind me saying, we asked Bill because of his advanced age and his long commitment to hunting. Bill has been chairman of the Royal Hunting Association and president of it, and been involved virtually in all the hunting organisations in Ireland, and are really committed. Like Jim, in different scales, they're both farmers, they're both country sports people. And they're interested in hunting. Jim doesn't hunt, but he shoots. But again, they're conservationists. So they fit in perfectly with the ethos of what we do.
Yeah.
We are conservationists, environmentalists, and we're involved in country sports. And so we invited them to do the foreword. And then if we go through the shooting in Ireland, we have a good range of people because we've covered everything from the species right through to actual shoots and other things. I tried to get people who were of the ilk of V.C. Fitzgerald, who you would know, who was one of the most famous naturalist sport and country sports people. And if you read the books by the older people, I have a vast library of books here, but if you read, and even Michael Twist, well, not quite a contemporary man, slightly older than me, but again, he was a great naturalist. As well, farmer, as well as being a country sports person. These are the people who observed birds. They collected birds. Often they had them stuffed in taxidermy before they became more enlightened. But nevertheless, these are the people who knew the habits of birds. They weren't these urban people who think of them as fluffy creatures. They looked for balance in the environment. And again, they enjoyed their shooting, but they enjoyed the environment in which they lived. And they inspired a lot of young people, including you, and
absolutely.
all of us around this table, by reading these people.
There would be as much in those older books about the environment of, and the ways of birds and animals and stuff than there was about shooting them. That was only sort of a snippet, and especially in V.C. Fitzgerald's books, or even Michael Twist's, there'd have been as much more conservation than. I
agree entirely, and indeed, when I did the chapter on snipe because I've been a lifelong snipe shooter. Funny enough, I'm a very in and out shot, and the snipe is the one bird that I've always done well at. But anyway, I lent very heavily on V.C. Fitzgerald's chapter on in one of his books on the snipe, and I had the one advantage that he had never seen the giant snipe, whereas I had seen one in Skye. I very nearly shot it, but I never shoot anything I don't understand what I'm shooting at. And this bird came over me several times, and I kept looking at it, and I thought it was a big, like a light-coloured woodcock. But then when I got into the hotel that night, in the game book was by Marchington, another very famous naturalist shooter, saw a giant snipe today, very rare. And then we were shooting up in Caithness a couple of years later, and there was a stuffed one. And I was able to examine it in detail. But again, you see, a lot of these people who talk about biodiversity wouldn't know these birds if they saw them.
No,
they've never examined them. And in the book, there's a very fine chapter by Ingrid Harrison. Hope she would have some of her taxidermy here with us today. But flicking through it, that main head, you've Turlough Coffey, again, probably one of the great current naturalist shooters. He moved, as an accountant, he moved from Newry to the Wexford Slobs because of the bird life and everything else. And he'd been a big member of all the bird organisations as well as being a shooter. And as you can see, he's lived a very rich life. Unfortunately, he's not well at the moment, but a good friend of mine. And as I say, these are the sort of people we pulled together into this book. You know, you're talking about in the Gundog section, we've got Peter Smith, Larry Taff, Brian O'Hara, Victor McDevitt, lots of people giving their knowledge, their experience, and plotting how these sports have developed. And I have to say, Victor paid us a very big compliment of saying the Game Fair has been one of the biggest things in developing these sports, because at the time when the Game Fair was first launched, gun dog tests were a novelty. Victor won the first gun dog test because he didn't have much opposition. I hope he's not looking in. But and you know, that test was between spaniels and retrievers. That's how long ago it was. Now there's virtually a retriever gun dog test every weekend in the summer, and similarly with spaniels. So a lot of these things. Same with terrier and lurcher shows. When we ran one of the first terrier lurcher shows in 1980, it was run by the Ulster Game and Wildfowl Society, which then became part of Countryside Alliance. But people had never seen a terrier and lurcher show. Again, during the season, there's one every week. So these are the sort of things, this is the background to a lot of the things we do. And as I say, Stephen's own chapter is an excellent one on Master McGrath. And you've seen it. This is Master McGrath, the small black dog, the most famous greyhound in Ireland, except, well, I suppose Mick the Miller, an ancestor, was almost as famous.
Almost as famous, yeah.
But, and you know, certainly the terrier and lurcher fraternity, which you dip in and out of, is very important.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it was a big job to do that chapter. I think there was so much stuff to cover. It was certainly one of the biggest bits that I ever wrote, an individual chapter. But the history was nice. It was nice to look back in the Master McGrath and just see how much stuff that I didn't know about it. That, you know.
Yes, I'd worked in. And you have also produced your own book.
I have it sitting just behind you there. Yeah.
And that's a heavier book than the last one.
It's a heavier one than the last one. It's too big.
We're getting heavier and heavier.
That's Julia's fault. She put too much stuff in it. But yeah, that's volume 2. We done volume 1 because when I started getting involved with tackles, probably 10 years ago, I started being a bit of a book collector. I looked about for any books on tackles, but the only ones there was German. They were all written in German, and there was nothing else. There was no sort of story, you know, like the sort of Darcy books you get. There was nothing like that, so we decided just to put one together and sort of cobbled the first one together, and we were lucky, and it went well. It sold out, and then we done the second one. And Julia always had an interest of putting in like training stuff and how to pick a pup and how to get it ready for working tests and stuff, which is a thing they do in Germany. So the first chapter, or the first section, the first half, is all that sort of stuff. So it's like preparation. Let me see. We get into the contents. So there you can see it's like explains what a tackle is, and then the first one, and then it goes into training and working selections or working tests and getting ready, and then it goes into like 18 stories, 18 chapters from all around the world. So there's some interesting stuff, and tackles that are involved in conservation projects too, believe it or not, with beavers in Estonia and bear tracking in Canada. There's all sorts of stuff, so you get everything from every corner of the world.
Yes, well, certainly I enjoyed the last one, and I'm sure I'll enjoy this one. Now, just a little commercial for the country sports book, heritage book. John, I think there's a flyer for it there which gives the details of how to order it. And again, it caught us rather by surprise because the dummy book that I was working on the weight of actually was just under 2 kilo, and this is 2.5 kilo. Your words are very heavy, Stephen, in terms of, but it's a big book, this, and as I say, it's a coffee table book, but it's also a reading book. It's a history, and so it's the we were going to go to £50 and €60, but Paul Pringle always plays havoc with my finances, and he wanted to offer readers of the magazine a discount. So I thought, well, what we'll do as a special initial offer, we'll offer everyone the discount. And so the book is £40 sterling or €50, including post and package. And bearing in mind, post and package is around £12 or £13. It means that the book is coming in at just over £25 to £30, which is a very good deal indeed. and everyone who has got it so far has said it's a wonderful publication. As I say, I was fortunate enough to head it up, but so many people contributed to this. Emma Kahn and Paul Pringle, joint editors. Emma Kahn and Gary Leacock for some very creative design. All of the people, there's 250 people mentioned in the thanks for photographs, for articles, for information. And so we pulled together a basic encyclopedia of country sports in Ireland. And I would recommend it to people. We want to get it out there. As I was saying, what we produce a quality magazine. We put it up online, free to read. So it gets between 3,500 and 10,000 readers a week online. We've got the book, we've got the game fair. Now, just think of how big the animal rights movement would be if they had any of these. And yet they are still winning, in a way, the PR battle with us. And that's why we've got to use platforms like this, platforms such as that provided by Countryside Alliance and Country Sports Ireland and BASC. We've got to use these platforms in a positive way to produce positive PR. And we've got the tools here, so we've got to use them. And we will be talking about that later on. But anyway, let's go to Stormont and see the launch of the book.
Hello, my name's Paul Pringle. Welcome to this wonderful book launch at Stormont. The book's called Irish Country Sports, A Heritage. I've had a look at it. It's absolutely amazing. Well now, we're here today with a very well-known face, Mr. Peter Weir, who in fact is hosting this book launch today. I'm going to have a few words with him. Peter, first of all, thank you for hosting this. You've had a quick look at the book?
Yeah, I'm delighted to be hosting today. It seems a magnificent book. There's obviously a lot of work's gone into it by Albert. They talk about sometimes coffee table books. I mean, there's an awful lot in this. It'd have to be a fairly sturdy coffee table, I think, to be able to take it, to be honest with you. But, it's clear, and it's great to see so many people here today, because there's a clear love of the countryside and a love of the environment. Yeah. And I think it's also very gratifying to see people drawn from all parts of the island of Ireland here today. A lot of people travelling a long distance, and I think it shows their dedication to conservation and to the environment as well.
Very interesting that you brought in very quickly the effects of country sports on conservation. And a lot of people decry country sports, but the spin-off for the countryside. I mean, after all, if you're a fisherman, it's up to you to see that the river's in good order, isn't it?
It is. I mean, look, and I think from that point of view, the people here, the people involved in that, have a dedicated love for the countryside. They care for it, and indeed, a sustainable countryside is critical. Not just for those involved in country sports, but also for the whole of the community. And I think those involved with it play a vital role in ensuring that our wildlife, our animals, our flora and fauna, etc., are all kept in a very strong balance.
You mentioned Albert Tittringclose. He's synonymous with the game fairs that's been running for many, many years around Northern Ireland and indeed in the south as well. There must be a tremendous economic boost when the game fair comes to town.
There would be. I mean, you see the sort of the towns and villages, whenever it is held, it's flooded with people in relation to it. Obviously, there's been in the last couple of years that restriction because of the COVID situation. Hopefully, bit by bit, we're moving out of that, and we can see a full resumption of the game fairs.
I hope so indeed. Peter Weir, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
After a very warm welcome from Albert to Stormont and the Long Gallery, and his appreciation that many people had travelled some distance from all over Ireland to gladly be part of the Irish Country Sport A Heritage book launch. He invited some contributors and special guests to the podium. They all conveyed their congratulations to Albert and all concerned in the production of this fine historical document that will be cherished in many sporting homes and add to any private collector or library. Such contributors to the podium were Peter Weir, MLA, our host for the morning, Brian O'Hare, ex-chair of the Irish Kennel Club Field Trials, Dan Curley, chair of NARGC, Jim Shannon, MP, and with this we will now hear from Jim Montgomery, past Lord Mayor from Antrim.
Delighted to be here today. I've known of the Game Fair for many years, having been born and lived in Antrim, and Antrim being the natural home of the Irish Game Fair, so it's something that's I've known about for many years. And it's great to see that this is the first major publication covering this area and the traditions and the history of country sports. What's also encouraging to see is that there is so much contribution from right across the island, and as Albert said, I think most counties are here or have contributed to it. So the publication itself maps the development of country sports and explores how they have helped to shape and preserve both the rural landscape and its culture, which is very important.
Absolutely.
After the formal introduction of the book, Irish Country Sports, A Heritage, truly launched in style, after a fabulous finger buffet, we managed to track down some of the guests, Margaret McStay, Owen McCahey, Kieran Young and Stephen McGonigal, and we asked them for their thoughts of the book.
I think it's absolutely fabulous. Some beautiful photographs and some lovely write-ups, and that it will do a lot for country sports and country life.
We asked the thoughts on the illustrations throughout this fabulous book, and Mary reminisces on some of the characters.
Very much so. I say I'm about 25 years in country sports and in the doggy world, in Whippets and with all my people here. Yes, there's some beautiful photographs and some people not with us and some people with us, which can be sad, but we've had some very happy times at the dog shows.
One of the guests from the south of Ireland, Owen McCahey, was asked his point of view of this fabulous book.
Definitely. Fantastic product again by Albert. The inclusion across the board of all the different disciplines of country sport, including the Terrier Federation, which he kindly asked us for a contribution.
Stephen McGonigal puts forward his view on the forthcoming Dogs and Hunting Bill in the chambers of this very building.
Well, that's absolutely the problem. You know, like we've all looked at it, everybody's looked at it. The people behind it are misguided, really. They don't understand the countryside, they have no idea, no conception. It was suggested to me by one of the people behind it that what they should do in terms of fox control is to fence the countryside off. Even for my own work as a rabbit controller, I was suggested to use rabbit fencing. So, I mean, looking at what do we do, fence the whole countryside in, it's unworkable, completely unworkable, misguided, and it's going against conservation rather than for it, which is what we do as countryside people, pest controllers, terrier work. It's all part of the balance.
This drums up a united front by all concerned.
It's going to be an impossibility. There's a strong country and rural sports heritage within all of Ireland, and in the Republic there's still a very strong support for all types of hunting. In previous legislation where it was being voted upon, it was overwhelmingly pro-hunting, and this player bill I don't think can succeed. It's going to make criminals out of ordinary people. They don't show any alternatives. I suppose what alternatives are there, as Stephen said, they're trying to close off or fence off the country, which is an impossibility and changes the whole outlook of the country. Other alternatives are possibly snaring and poisoning, which is a step backwards from an environmental point of view. So, a balanced approach, which hunting is. It's not all about killing, it's about, pest control, wildlife management in a humane, controlled and balanced manner.
And Mary has a very clear message to send to Mr. Blair. The lady is not for turning.
I would tell him to wise up. Country sports has been in this country and all around the world for a long, long time. Farmers could not do without country sports. They could not do without the men coming in on their lands and cleaning it up for them. I know people that have asked for these huntsmen to come in on their lands and clean them because they were losing hens. All their fowl maybe that they've reared for years. No, I think you should go and wise up and go with the people, with the hunts.
And it's not all about men, is it?
There's ladies, women like myself, totally involved in it, yes. I'm getting a bit old for jumping the hedges now, but in my younger days, yes. But no, I do a lot of write-ups for them, I follow them, I go to every show. It's nice that the huntsmen can show their dogs during the summer and work with them in the field in the winter, and they're helping what Kieran says, pest control, definitely.
We hope you enjoyed being with us here at the book launch for the Irish Country Sports A Heritage here in Stormont. We thank Albert Tittington for again being a leading light and inspiration for the production of such a fine reflection of Irish country sports, and I think you will agree. I hope you will show your appreciation to him and his team for all their hard work by placing an order for your copy. Details will be shown here at the end of this video. And once again, we thank you for your attention.
Order the book. As I say, it's £40 or €50 post and package included. It just demonstrates as well how many people it took to put this book together. Now, nearly everyone was there, but there were probably about another 20 people that couldn't make it for various reasons. Apologies again about the sound of the video, but we had open windows because of COVID. We had some sort of feedback from the mic, which the podium mic, which was kept on, which should have been off and things like that. So George was working under difficult conditions, but anyway, it gives you a flavour of what took place. I'd like to thank Peter Weir publicly for hosting the event and for his very strong comments linking country sports with conservation. Perhaps, Gary, you'd like to say something about that?
Yes, it's all about balance. It's not about actually trying to take anything away. It's just making sure that one species does not have the upper hand on the other. And again, it's allowing those species that are under threat or under pressure to give them that chance to be able to come back again. And it's the most important point, really. nobody who's a true sportsman or true country sports person, and you've said this as well, Stephen, wants to see the extinction of anything. If anything, we want to see populations rise, and where there is an excess in any particular population, then we just want to control it and manage it so that there's a balance throughout the whole of the ecosystem, which I think is the most important thing.
I think that's very important, and you know, I'm sorry, Dan Curley from NARGC's speech wasn't included. Dan made the very big point that country sports people, it's not a hobby like golf where you put away your clubs. It's a way of life. As he put it, country sports people spend about 75% of their time on conservation work. Looking after the environment in which the quarry species live, looking after the populations of quarry species so that there is a balance, and the other 25% probably involved in dog training, and then probably about 5% in actually hunting animals. And so in terms of actually what most people put back into the environment, they would put back probably, even the top pheasant shoot would have about a 40% return on birds shot, and that would be very good. Most would be 30%, but amongst that 30%, the feeding that goes into the 100%, that includes all sorts of small birds, and you've only to look at the big estates to see the rich, diverse biodiversity there is on the estates, and that's because of the fact that there are pheasants released. The other 50-60% of pheasants that aren't in the bag, those are probably killed by foxes.
Yes, they will be taken by foxes, or they will go into, whether or not it's birds of prey or whatever, they will go back into the food source somewhere along the line as they go. So it's not as if they're going to waste within the ecosystem. They provide food or opportunity to other animals to be able to survive and to move on it. And again, going back to conservation, I think it's the Code of Good Shooting. That's not the Code of Good Shooting. There was a publication, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was, we contribute 16,000 full-time employment opportunities is what it equates to, the amount of conservation work that the community put in to enhance habitats and biodiversity. So it's not all about shooting, or it's all about hunting, or it's all about taking. The amount that goes back in is unbelievable compared to what is taken. The actual, it's a passion and a way of life, as you say.
Okay, well, we'll leave the video there, and but again, great to hear people and politicians realising that country sports and conservation are linked, and very strongly linked, and also linked with balance and the biodiversity in the countryside. We're now going to show a little Red Mills video. Red Mills are very good supporters of the Game Fair. They sponsor the Spaniel events at Shane's Castle, and they'll be there sponsoring Spaniel events again this year. Very big connections with pointers and setters, and again it's recognised in the book, an excellent chapter by Hugh Beatty on pointers and setters. I must say that Hugh's was the first chapter to come in, and it set a very, very high standard indeed. And I enjoyed it thoroughly. I had setters myself. I had one pointer and several setters. And I must say I didn't stop reading it until I finished it. But a very, very, very good definitive chapter by Hugh. And again, most of the chapters are fairly definitive. But anyway, Red Mills has a long connection with all sorts of animals in terms of food. I've been down to the factory. I've seen how they operate. They have their own vets, their own food nutritionists. And of course, Bill Conley, one of the one generation up, is a good pointer and setter man. So you'll see the focus of this little video is setters, but they've kindly given some dog food to as prizes for you just to phone in, or sorry, you just to, when you're putting, last time round was phoning in, this time round you just to like the feed, make a comment and say that you're interested in a bag of dog food, and you're going to the draw for it. They've also given a 15% off Game Fair, 15% discount of any of their products. So if you get in quickly, you'll avail of that. So without further ado, we'll show the little video.
We're a 5th generation family business. That's over 100 years of knowledge and experience, delivering quality, consistency and service. We're a nutrition company. We develop and manufacture our products here on site at our facilities in Goresbridge, Ireland. Our growers have been handpicked from across the country, and we have nurtured these relationships for generations. We are animal lovers. We have a passion for animal nutrition, health and well-being. Our team at Connolly's Red Mills value animals, whether they're high performers or family pets. We're experts in animal nutrition. Our vets, chemists and nutritionists work with leading universities to make sure your animals are benefiting from the latest in nutritional technology. We are here to help. Our nutritional team are on your side, giving you our knowledge and experience, and you become part of the Red Mills community when you feed and use our products. We're just a call or a click away.
Okay, there you are. Little video from Red Mills, good supporters of the Game Fair. I say they sponsor the Spaniels at the Game Fair. They're also an excellent nutrition company, the 6th generation. One of the main lights in it, Bill Connolly, is a great pointer and setter man, and again is covered in the book, some of his wins. You see that we've got a 15% offer. Game Fair 15 will get you a discount of any of their products online. And we've also got a couple of bags of Engage to give away, thanks to William Connolly and Jenny Crozier. Simply all you do is when you're liking and making a comment on the Virtual Game Fair Live, you say that you're interested in going into the draw for a bag of dog food. Thank you. And now we're having a little video from Swarovski. Again, big supporters of our magazine, including they've taken Dave McCullough away to shoot mouflon. Unfortunately, I wasn't fit at the time, otherwise I would have had it. And I know you would have wanted to hunt it with tackles rather than shoot it. But anyway, they have some of the best stalking equipment imaginable. And this is a big hint to Irene. I do a bit of stalking, though I tend to be a bit more traditional, wooden rifle, and I think a Picar scope from about 40 years ago. But this is one of the latest generation 2 of their scopes. And it's an all singing, all dancing one. And I don't know whether it gives a figure, but it would make a very nice Christmas present for anyone. I think we're not going to price. If anyone's interested, they look up the Swarovski site. I'm going to show Irene the video, but not the price. And hopefully maybe get it in my Christmas stocking anyway. Now I'll remind you that, again, we've lots of prizes to give away. We've got the main prize of a Barber jacket and a night B&B in the Dunadry Inn. And we've also got limited edition prints, Master McGrath, Mick the Miller, very fine woodcock print from John R. Moore. John has illustrated quite a few of the parts of the book. Great local artists from around the Cullybackey area. You can see above the print, we've got the actual original woodcock. I've quite a few paintings of John's. Irene says, like my paintings on the books, I've got to start to get rid of them. So this is another little commercial. The Master McGrath and Mick the Miller painting is for sale. So anyone that has a print and would like the Master McGrath and Mick the Miller print, I will be selling that one. So if anyone wants it, a historical painting, and it's got prints taken from it, which makes it more valuable. So anyone who wants it, give me a call and we can talk money on it. But anyway, we're going to go on now to the other prizes we have. You simply, again, as I say, leave a message what you would like to be involved in. We've got some very fine fishing books. We've game cookery books, Carissa and Johnny. We've got gamekeeper books. We've got a lurcher book, and we've a very nice game seasons book. So books, all you need to say is what you're interested in, the sort of book you'd like: shooting, game cookery, fishing, or lurchers, and you'll go into the draw for one of these books, provided by Paul Morgan from Cocky Bundu Books. So we're now going to go on and look at the background to the hunting bill. But before I do so, I want to make a presentation. Now, normally we make these presentations, Country Sports and Country Life Commitment Awards, and we mean Lifetime Commitment Awards. We always say that we give the award for recognising the work that someone has done, but by them accepting it, they commit to continue to do it. Now, I've discussed it with Paul Pringle, and we both felt that over the time of the hunting bill, one person stood out for us, and that was Gary McCartney from Countryside Alliance, who we feel went over and above what his job not entitled him to do, but committed him to doing. Now, Gary, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Gary, because we discussed it, Gary was set up in a lot of ways on his first joust on this by the BBC, because I know for a fact it was supposed to be 2-2. It was supposed to be Gary and someone who hunts, and it was supposed to be John Blair and the Lax Lady. Now, what happened was the guy that was supposed to be on with Gary is an expert huntsman, and actually a guy who runs a foot pack. And he had called me the night before just to discuss the thing, and he and I had discussed ideas. He called me for my advice, and I learned something from him. He was that good. And I thought to myself, I was very sure that Gary, with his general background, and young Dan, with his great knowledge, would have wiped the floor. But unfortunately, the BBC set it up that Gary was facing both the well-prepared John Blair and the well-prepared lady from Lax. Now, Gary did well, but he took some criticism because a lot of the country sports people, while they won't step up to the plate themselves, are certainly prepared to criticise. And Gary did okay in a bad situation, but he came back stronger, and that's what we admired in it. He came back stronger. He didn't let it put him off. Many people would have decided, well, I've done my best and I'm getting criticism. He came back stronger, and he worked hard, and I was very happy to help behind the scenes in any way I could in terms of my expertise in marketing, where I could criticise John's consultation process and the actual initial poll. But Gary carried the ball in a lot of ways. He kept abreast of what was happening in the Assembly with the bill. He made little darts and attacks where he could on the bill in his progress through it. And overall, I think Gary did an excellent job, and we would like to recognise in some small way the work that he did. and as I will remind him that it is committing him to continue to do excellent work. Steve, if you can, on behalf of the Great Game for Ireland, present.
Yeah. I can't stand up, Gary,
I'll
unfortunately.
get a shot of that.
I think that is very, very well deserved.
Thank you very much. It's very much greatly appreciated. So it is. To be honest, I'm honoured to receive the award.
I'll just take a few just in case we're... And when we finally put this to bed, I'm going to fill that with the best Scotch imaginable.
And you know what I would say about the radio is that it doesn't matter if you had lined out a million questions. Somebody's going to ask you 1,000,001. It's always going to be, I said that to you before, it's always going to be the wrong thing, because that happened to me before with the radio with Frank Mitchell, and he asked me like a blinder. And I and it was the first time I was in the radio and I panicked. So it doesn't matter how well you prepare, it's always going to be, do you know what I mean? And if you line out, like I said, a million questions, it's going to be the one that you didn't think of. But I think your award's very well deserved, and you done very, very well. I think Albert would say the same. And George?
I definitely do, because I should say, and in some ways, Gary, because it was a lonely task. You're on your own in Countryside Alliance here. I know Tim Bonner came across and did various bits and pieces, but it was a lonely path you trod with the burden of had this bill gone through, you would have been criticised. And I was very glad. That was one of the things I was very glad about, because but we were going to give you the award no matter what happened with the bill, because of the work. Paul and I recognised the work that you put in on it. And so you were getting the award anyway, but it's nice that we can give you the award having won the first round.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely fantastic, and thank you. But it's actually the members and the associations that all pulled together on this. While yes, I kept abreast of the information, and Albert, you helped me, and Stevie, you phoned me in a number of times, and the offer of help was there. It was you actually stepping up to the plate and saying, look, I partake in country sports and this is wrong, that sent these messages to our MLAs that got this kicked into touch. Granted, it is going to come back, but I think it is a lonely being on your own. I do wholeheartedly agree with that, but I have to give a special thanks to Lyle, Ashley and Liz, that despite them leaving the Alliance, they have been there for their to give their comments and their thoughts and their guidance still. And again, that's something I hold dear, that the fact that, despite the numbers going down, they were there to assist me and to help me as well as all the others who helped into it. So mine was only a small part. It was actually, yous that made this happen. And this should hopefully empower us now to say, right, look, this is what we do. There's nothing wrong with what we do, and explain what we're doing. We have a story to tell, and we should tell it. So thank you, Albert, and thank you very much for the recognition.
George, would you like to say a word about that?
Yes, very much. So, took a lot of time out to come to the meetings of the HANA meetings and the different masters meetings and everything else. Like it's personal. Okay, it's maybe defined as your job, but you took a lot of personal interest and you did come along, and very much so deserved. It takes a lot of time and energy and effort and sleepless nights when you're working through things like this that nobody really sees behind the scenes. It's like making a film. Nobody sees what goes on behind and all the effort that's put in to get the result that you desire. And yes, you depended on the people and all the different constituents and all the different areas writing to their MPs or their MLAs and doing them. But we needed a rally point, and I think this time round you were the rally point where you carried the flag and we all rallied round and we pushed it, because it did jump out of the ground and took a lot of boys by surprise, and a lot of the country sports people by surprise to a certain extent. We always knew someday it was going to come along, but we never knew just it would pop out of the ground so quickly. And after fighting it 20 years ago, we sort of thought, well, we can walk away now, we've got that one put to bed. But it just goes to show you things can change overnight. And the fight's on again. And I was in your position maybe 20 years ago, along with the late John Beach and a few of them, and sorted it and put it away to bed. And I know exactly what effort goes into it. You were lucky you had computers to work from. Back in my day, it was 11,000 envelopes, 11,000 stamps, and 11,000 addresses to write into. So,
well, George, I know that with your experience in the past and your real commitment to country sports, you're standing by with the envelopes and everything else if necessary as well.
Well, personally speaking, I think that's the way it has to go back to. It's all right sending a common letter through your emails and all these sort of things, but you know yourself, when you get a personal letter that comes in the post and you open that envelope and you get a nice personal letter, to me it means 10 times as much as this flippant email that appears, which is copied by everybody and sent to you. And I think now the gabbles is off, and we have to prepare. And I'm watching the Knightsfell thing there, which is the Templar Knights, and how they all prepared and went. And I think that's the stage we're now at. We need the Grand Master to reassemble us.
Well, George obviously has. His comment there obviously refers greatly to his interest in a common interest we have in living history and heritage. And you've probably seen George, and you will see him on our YouTube channels with Living History, and you'll see him at the fair with Living History. And we're looking forward to some very spectacular living history this year at the fair. So we talked there a little bit about the bill as we came in on it on the back of the book, but we're now going to look at the Field Sports Channel video. Now, Charlie Jacoby from Field Sports, the Field Sports Channel, used to be Field Sports Britain, it's now Field Sports because it's international. Big audience, up to 500,000 for the programmes. I certainly am very committed to it because I think it's the best thing we have in the UK. And so I became a shareholder of it, a minor shareholder, I have to say, and I have no influence whatsoever in it. But Charlie and I have always got on well. He comes across to the fair. He loves being in Ireland. He loves being in Northern Ireland. And he was geared up to come across with a big stand at the 21 fair. And we're hoping he'll come across the 22 fair. You can see I'm wearing one of the Field Sports Channel masks in deference to Charlie, but they're available. That's another commercial. They're available from Field Sports Channel. They're very smart. They'd be quite good for pigeon shooting as well. But anyway, Charlie came across and made this video, and I think it's one of the finest rebuttals of John Blair's whole ethos on the bill and his whole rationale for the bill. Now, he did interview John. He interviewed. This time the balance was slightly different. There were more of us than there were of John. But I had suggested to him that he wouldn't do it in a confrontational, adversarial way. That he would interview John, give him his chance to make his points, and then we would make our points contrary to him. And so we weren't ambushing him like the way you were ambushed. We were giving him a fair platform. So have a look at the video. You'll see the points, you'll see where we think John went wrong, and you'll see our arguments against the bill or any other future bill of its type.
When it comes to creating hatred and division, the League Against Cruel Sports will go anywhere, do anything. In Northern Ireland, fox hunting is a cross-community triumph.
In this country, which has had so many difficulties, there's no prejudice. It is one of the few things that reaches out to all members of the community, all walks of life. And there's this misconception that it's a class thing. I'm a plastering contractor. All my friends, they're all working class people, and we all enjoy hunting.
This is creating hate where there's no need for hate. And it's hate based on ignorance of the countryside.
Here in Northern Ireland at the moment, we're trying to get away from a criminalised past. Why go into the future making new people criminals?
Dan hunts the Glens of Antrim foxhounds in the hills along Northern Ireland's northeast coast.
All our hunts would be by invitation, so farmers are concerned with the growing fox population. They've seen foxes, they're worried about them taking livestock. They have taken livestock, poultry, etc. And then we'd be contact the kennels, and we would be invited to come.
Now Lax has landed in Northern Ireland, wants to get rid of people like Dan, and has found the man to do it, John Blair from the Centre-Left Alliance Party.
My bill dealing with the hunting of wild mammals with dogs, where dogs are used for the kill, is not designed to target any community or any aspect of the wider country sports. It's intended solely to address a matter of great public opinion. It's consistent with the policies of my party, which have been there for some years, and also it addresses the fact that we are the only part of the United Kingdom not to have introduced legislation to deal with the issue of there being massive public opinion against the hunting of wild mammals with dogs, where dogs are used for the kill.
When I speak to a lot of the genuine conservationists, genuine animal lovers, they and I have so much in common. And indeed, John and I, in a lot of ways, have so much in common in care and concern for the countryside, the environmental issues, tree planting like we've done here, ponds, all of these things John and I have common cause on. And I would ask him to step back a little bit and to look at the interests of this minority. John and the Alliance Party claim to look after the interests of minorities. And they're very strong in this. Indeed, they have trashed some of the other political parties for their lack of care and concern for minorities. And yet, in a substantial minority within Northern Ireland and the south of Ireland, they're actually creating this division. And they're hammering people whose main interest in life could be hunting.
Albert runs the Irish Game Fair and publishes books and magazines about shooting and hunting in both Northern and Southern Ireland. What's strange is that John Blair has been to Albert's fairs and has a history of supporting country sports in Northern Ireland.
I'm very supportive of the wider country sports community and sector. I've worked with them extensively over the years, both in my previous employment in Deira Inland Fisheries and now as someone who represents a largely rural constituency. Over the years I have learned that there's a very close network of people, there's a great high degree of mutual support and understanding between many individuals who work in that sector. I know they've made great efforts in recent times especially to try and encourage more people, younger people, women, people from the disabled sector to get involved in country sports. It's a very important part of rural life and I fully understand that, fully support that. It's an important part of the rural economy, but I think most importantly of all, it's a way for people to come together, enjoy outdoor recreation, get outdoors and active in healthy outdoor activity, and therefore crucial to all of those involved and others who will be involved in the future.
Albert organised a carriage to take me and Jim Shannon MP across the Irish Game Fair site in 2018. Jim is surprised that John has stuck his political neck out to try to ban hunting and trail hunting in Northern Ireland.
My conversations with John in the past, for instance at Shane's Castle Game Fair, would be a fella who perhaps understood the role of country sports in the countryside, number one. Number two, would be aware of the depth of support there would be for country sports and in particular for hunting. As one who has probably shooting for maybe all my adult life and have been able to encourage my son and ultimately my granddaughter to be involved in that, and because they want to be. I think that John maybe is pursuing something which I suspect is not necessarily in tandem with the viewpoints of the large majority of people in Northern Ireland. Therefore, has he thought it through? Well, only he can answer that.
Perhaps even more surprising is that John does not consider himself or his bill to be anti-hunting.
I am not, and I should not be quoted as someone who is in any way anti-hunting or anti-country sports. It's a great frustration to me that many people active in the sector, not all, but many, have deliberately misrepresented what I'm trying to do by consistently referring to it as a hunting ban. It is not that, never has been that, will not be that with my name on it. It is, plain and simple, an attempt to bring a private member's bill where dogs are used for the killing of a wild mammal for human entertainment.
We have put the whole of John Blair's interview on YouTube. There's a link in the description below. The matter goes back to a survey produced for LAX, which claimed that 80% of Northern Ireland is opposed to hunting. John Blair followed it with his own consultation. Albert explains what went wrong.
Yes, well, John's own consultation, supposedly carried out under the rules of the Assembly, took as a starting point a survey carried out for the League Against Cruel Sports, and I do stress for the League Against Cruel Sports, by a UK company called Survation. Survation work on the basis of panels that one can invite oneself onto. They don't carry out research as I would have done in my academic research and my business research using random sampling or an approximation of it. You simply volunteer and then they fit you into a box. The reason why I would be concerned about the results of the Survation survey, which gave 80% of people in Northern Ireland against hunting, is that it contrasted very, very strongly with two other surveys in Belfast Live, which give different results. So if I had been John, starting off from that point of view, I would have looked at the results of all three, not used the 80% from Survation as the basis of my consultation. John then simply went on and, if you like, exacerbated that by using similarly biased questions, in my opinion biased questions, leading questions, which assumed that the 80% was right. That again was exacerbated by the fact that he didn't ask people replying to the consultation exercise to identify themselves by address, email, etc. So that meant that you could have an influx of information from outside of Northern Ireland. And indeed, I would say that happened because LACS did lobby their members throughout the world to reply to John's survey. I always used to say when I was teaching students, rubbish in, rubbish out. And, you know, I'm not blaming John because I would say that John would be relatively inexperienced at carrying out surveys. And I would say LACS are not inexperienced at carrying out surveys. And I think in some ways he has been misled by LACS. I feel sorry about this because I think John is a very genuine, hard-working MLA. I regard him as a friend. I regard that he and I have many issues that we would support in common. Tree planting, conservation, animal welfare, real animal welfare. I'm not talking about contrived animal welfare, the sort of welfare of LACS, PACM, etc., but countryside animal welfare, countryside and environmental concern. That's what we as country sports people are all about.
John denies this.
The public consultation that was done in relation to my private member's bill was consistent with Assembly practice and totally consistent with how consultations in similar private members' bills have been done throughout the years. It therefore puzzles me a bit that some people in the country sports sector honed in on the fact that there might have been those who completed the survey related to the bill who hailed from outside of Northern Ireland. The critics have not addressed the fact that many of the people who are on their side were also from outside Northern Ireland.
Gary McCartney from the Countryside Alliance is horrified that LACS has landed in Belfast.
From what we've been seeing, there's a lot of similarities between the League Against Cruel Sports position and what John is saying. So we can see that John seems to be working very closely with the League in drafting this and obviously the information provided, which is unfortunately one-sided. So yes, I can see that there is a strong link between the two. John has not engaged with Countryside Alliance or the hunting community to the best of our knowledge, and despite our correspondence to him, he's refused to respond. If John has concerns, come and speak with the hunting community. Let's discuss it and see the best way forward and how we can address that so that everybody is happy and we can move forward.
I have engaged with the hunting community regularly and often over the years. I do it all of the time. I work with local conservation trusts. I work with local anglers. I know many people individually who are involved in country sports, and I respect what they do.
Fox hunting here touches all ages.
Who's your favourite?
Causeway.
Causeway? Can you see Causeway? Is it Causeway there?
That's him right there.
And why is he your favourite?
Because he's named after the Giant's Causeway.
The proposed bill has already hit some political bumps. The Ulster Farmers Union is against it.
The farmers not only support us because they like hunting, but they realise that there's a huge financial interest, because one of the things that maybe hasn't come out is that Northern Ireland is a very horsey part of the world, and lots and lots of the very best young steeplechasers come from Northern Ireland. They start in the hunting field, they go on to pointer pointing, and then they go to Doncaster sales, where I'm glad to say some of them make £200,000 or £300,000 a time.
The farmers of the North Antrim Hills claim the highest density of sheep in Europe. John says there are alternatives to vermin control with hounds, and he has mentioned fencing against foxes. I'm
saying clearly that all alternatives to measures being used currently, which are being used despite the massive public opinion against them, need to be carefully considered by the department, those involved in the practices, those involved in the sector, and I would be hopeful that the department will be supportive of those who need additional help to protect their farms, protect their property as we go forward, and these are conversations to be had in the future.
Well, John should come and try and fence it himself then and see how good he is at that, but you cannot control foxes in these areas properly without a pack of hounds. It's a tool, shooting, yeah, everything, but it's still, a pack of hounds is still needed, yeah. Our map would be roughly 150 square miles, mostly coastline and hill ground, yeah. We have a bit near the Giant's Causeway, which would be lowland.
It's not just Northern Ireland's farmers. The anglers aren't happy with John Blair either.
We've always taken the view with our colleagues in the Countryside Alliance and BASC and so forth that field sports stand or fall together, and we very much oppose all these moves to ban hunting and hunting with hounds and so forth, because apart from anything else we feel it'll be just one domino after the other, and once fox hunting with hounds goes, something else will go, and eventually they'll come around to fishing. It will be only a matter of time. So our view is very definitely is we stand together and we support our colleagues in the hunting fraternity.
A badly worded ban on hunting with hounds may bring Northern Ireland in line with the rest of the UK, but it is out of step with Europe, and especially Southern Ireland. Will the bill gain support in Stormont? Jim Shannon reckons no.
My indication is that he will not gain support from Sinn Féin. The ones that I've talked to have told me that. The ones we've had discussions with, and we've had lots of discussions within the unionist community, he will garnish a lot of opposition, and within those who are small independent parties or independents, I think the issue will become difficult for him to gain statistical and mathematics support as well. So really, it's going nowhere.
John is certainly feeling the attacks on him. He is especially sensitive to the accusation that he is a lax member.
It's been suggested that I'm a member of the League Against Cruel Sports by people who could not know, by the way, one way or the other. And the simple thing for them to do before they make that statement is ask me. And I really wish people would behave fairly in that regard, because something I try to do in all aspects of my work. I may not always get it right, and I may not always be able to please all the people, but being fair and being honest is actually quite important to me. I've seen suggestions that I have a member. There have been more serious allegations than that. Some of them carefully nuanced, but I've watched very carefully at comments that have been in social media, for example, and I would urge people to be very careful about what they suggest unless they know it to be fact. I mean, that's a very good and simple example. For example, is that those who say that I'm a member of the League Against Cruel Sports couldn't possibly know that I am, because I know that I'm not.
I wish John well in his future political career. I admire the hard work that he puts in on behalf of his constituents, and I would just very urgently ask him to think again on the anti-hunting bill.
It's more important to address health. It's more important to address education. It's more important to address the roads, and it's definitely more important to address the economic issues. Those are priorities. I think he should do the same. With great respect to him, by the way, and I respect him greatly. I think this may be one what he's done his bit. Now just back off. Yeah.
I think one thing that the hunting community does have to put across is they have to educate people. The likes of John Blair and that are providing misinformation to the general public, and people believe it. So it's up to us to fight our corner and say and show people that there's no hidden agenda. We're not covering anything up. We're actually normal people and doing a service.
There are 12 registered packs of hounds in Northern Ireland and perhaps another 30 unregistered. John Blair, like Tony Blair before him, is trying, maybe accidentally, to drive a wedge into rural communities.
The great thing about hunting here is it's part of everyday life. I mean, in my old pack, we used to have a guy who was a docker. He was a foreman docker, so he used to arrange his shifts so he could come hunting. We had nurses who came hunting. It's a people's sport here, and the very idea that it might be elitist is so wrong in Northern Ireland. When we had the last attempt to ban hunting here, the then Chief Constable went with me to see the then Secretary of State to explain that for him to try and stop hunting, particularly in the border counties, would turn people who were normally law-abiding, they would be lawbreakers because none of them were going to give up hunting. And we had a wonderful Secretary of State there, and he was a Labour Secretary of State, and he said, don't worry, I'll talk to Downing Street, and of course the bill didn't apply to Northern Ireland. And my hope is that Northern Ireland will keep hunting away from politics. We've got enough politics in Northern Ireland.
Lax has helped write 2 bills to ban hunting with hounds, one for Scotland and one for England and Wales. Both are laws so unworkable that even Lax wants them changed for new laws. It looks like the Northern Irish process is going to be another waste of public money and parliamentary time.
Well, obviously, although that was before the vote on the bill, Jim Shannon's forecast was perfectly correct. He hit the ear to the ground, where it appears that John was very badly out of step. And obviously the 80% that he was referring to of people didn't translate into 80% of MLAs. We'll come back and we'll discuss it a bit more detail, but I think it covered a lot of the ground which is still very relevant to us going forward. And I thought that, you know, everyone on it, they spoke very well. I thought Dan Kenny, who actually had hoped to be here today, but his son's ill, Dan Kenny, we go back a long way. Young Dan, as I refer to him, his father used to run a fantastic grouse conservation project in the Glens of Antrim that I was happy to help with. And our reward was a day's grouse shooting on the 12th. And, you know, that was a very good example. And the old Dan, as we called him, who's still alive, and actually I was speaking to him recently, mind is clear as a bell. He was the deputy editor of the newsletter and a real country sportsman through and through. Dan would have worked all year, gritting, carrying bags of grit up by foot up into the Glens of Antrim, burning heather and, you know, again, controlling foxes to ensure that the grouse survived. And Dan had over 100 grouse on that moor, and he looked after them like children. And but he realised that they did need to be at a time. The old cocks needed to be shot, and that's what he was trying to do whenever he allowed one day's grouse shooting, which we did. And young Dan used to come out with us, and a mighty walker like his father. I can't remember anyone that I took out. Now, I was young and fit in those days and a bit of a hill walker, and I was struggling at the end. But most of our men, many of the men in that book went down with cramp because a pair of them were mighty walkers. And I can understand young Dan taking up the hunting because his father did hunt fox mainly with terriers. But young Dan is just the man for that hillside. And he made the very good point, which we will come back to, about the nonsense talked about the other ways of controlling foxes. And we will come back, because Stephen, you would have a very good idea of that in terms of your vermin control, and I have some ideas with my badgers here. But anyway, I thought there were 3 other people I thought we would like to have a contribution from, and they had offered to drive, but because we can use their enthusiasm later on in the campaign, I thought we'd take a short video from each of them. The first one is Kieran Young, who, as I said, is our Terrier and Lurcher Director for the Game Fair, runs a very successful morning show, and a very committed member of the Irish Working Terrier Federation.
Hey guys, Kieran from the Morning Lurcher and Terrier and IWTF. Albert's asked for my views on the recent attempt by Alliance Party's John Blair to ban hunting with dogs in Northern Ireland. My own personal opinion, having read the bill, having seen the interviews and the way it's been portrayed in the media, John was quite clever in that he steered the media very quickly to the mounted packs and away from the actual facts in the background of the bill. The bill making it illegal if the ordinary person walking their dogs and a rabbit jumps up and the dogs take off. The very act of the dogs chasing that rabbit made them liable under the bill for a criminal offence, and thus a myriad of problems for them. That's in my opinion, why the bill didn't proceed. It wasn't very well thought out, or maybe it was too well thought out for his part, considering his backers and the people behind giving him the information for the bill. John didn't converse with anyone in country sports really in the make-up of this bill, even though he claims to be our friend. Again, I'll leave that up for yourself. Going forward, I don't think they will let this drop. I think they'll change what they need to change to bring it back again. And I would ask that, continuing from today, every single person in country sports keeps on, lobby, do what you need to do to make the politicians understand, one, that we do it properly and humanely and within the law, and two, there is a vast number of us in country sports, and when it all boils down to votes, we do hold a bit of sway. For myself, we'll keep on working. The IWTF's working away with other parties behind the scenes. We want to see terrier work continue as it is continuing even in England, Scotland and Wales under their Hunting Act ban. Terrier work is still completely legal and has proven to be highly efficient in pest control. I'll leave you with, we need everyone to get stuck in. We need everyone. Don't leave it to your friends. Don't leave it to your hunting buddies to lobby a politician. If you can get in contact with any politician who will be fighting for an MLA seat in Stormont, please make your country sports love known to them and make your family, the numbers known. We need to get them educated better on the way we do things and how we do things already without their interference in the countryside. Thanks very much, and I hope you have a great day.
Much to Kieran. Kieran's very passionate about this. He was one of the people who was prepared to pick up the ball and run with it. He was working with others with some very inventive ways of actually opposing the bill. Thankfully, we didn't need to put them into operation, but he's certainly very happy to work with everyone else to try to put together a united front that we're ready for the next time such a bill comes forward. We'll now move on to Jed Donna. Jed is the Terrier and Lurcher representative for Country Sports Ireland. That's Ronan Gorman's organisation. As I say, Ronan was supposed to be here, but unfortunately has an illness in the family. I have to say, Ronan did a lot of work. I consulted with Ronan quite a bit over the bill, and Ronan said that Gary was doing a good enough job up front and that he would do work behind the scenes. And I know for a fact he missed the launch of the book, even though he had written a part of a chapter in it, a very good part of the chapter, because he was actually in a Zoom call with a number of public representatives. And obviously a Zoom call worked because we were able to see the results of his lobbying. So, but anyway, Jed Donna would be regarded as the top, certainly in terms of shows, the top terrier, not so much terrier, but top lurcher man anyway, Stephen. He's won the Five Nations twice. He has won he's run well in the Master McGrath and Mick the Miller, and he produces very fine dogs. And so we asked Jed, as a guy who's not only because he's representing Rowan's organisation, but also because he's so deeply involved in breeding terriers and lurchers and in working them and in showing them, to say a few words. And he does speak from the heart.
Hi folks. I've been asked recently, Jed Dunne here, and I've been asked recently what hunting means to me. Well, hunting means an awful lot to me. It's what I've spent most of my life doing. And for me, it's mainly lurchers and terriers, ferrets, that type of hunting. Putting food on the table. A lot of what we catch, we eat. Which, how can you knock that, like, you know? And on top of that, anything we don't eat feeds animals. So it can only be a good thing. More still, young children. There's young children come out of me, youngsters come out of me, teenagers, to learn about hunting. And it does my heart good to see them going the right way, to see them following in the footsteps in the great life I've had with my animals and the hunting that I've done. And I want to see that, I really, really want to see that sustained going forward. I want to see these kids, when I'm not able to do this myself anymore, I want to see these kids out doing it, and I want to see them having the great life that I've had at this. I want to thank Albert for all that he has done over the last while, and that's an awful lot, to try and preserve all this for the whole lot of us. You know, he's gone above and beyond trying to keep this alive for us, and I want to thank him for that, and I want to thank him for giving me the chance to just say my little piece on it. What more can I say? There's not really a whole lot more I can say, but please God that we'll have hunting going forward for a long time. And as my dad used to say, God rest him, onwards and upwards. But thanks a lot, folks, and thanks, Albert.
Well, thanks to Jed for that. Spoke from the heart. Some very important things that he raised there. The importance of getting the young involved in country sports as a healthy outdoor pursuit. They learn respect for the countryside. They learn respect for balance in the countryside, rather than perhaps like Greta leading strikes from school and things like that, or learning from a book, or learning from the internet, or playing on their Xbox. It's a good, healthy lifestyle to get the young involved. It gets them an understanding of biodiversity, gives them an understanding of animals, and the fact that animals within our food processes do die. And you know, I mean, what they have to do is to learn that animals being culled are culled humanely. And you know, I mean, you were to see this in Germany with the respect that when the hunter, when he kills an animal, shows the animal.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you've even watched Light Below Zero on television,
Yeah.
and they're thanking the animal for giving up the life for them.
Yeah.
Now, Jed, obviously, at a time, like quite a few people, including my good friend Seamus Irwin, this is going back a fair few years, actually did, as he said, use his animals to put food on the table. Rabbits, hares, etc. And what he also said there, the other things that were killed, and they couldn't eat, they used them to feed things like ferrets.
Yeah, no, nobody wastes any rabbits that come to mind never get wasted, absolutely not, and even less so now, because there's a lady down in Mayo who cures hides and skins and all that stuff. So I always said that was the only thing that I never used was rabbit skins, but now they all get salted and I keep them for her, and she'll pick them up probably next week from the full year. So she makes all sorts, otherwise they'd be wasted, so it's all, you know, it's all used. And she uses now eel skin as well from Loch Ness. Any of the eel skin that's wasted, she makes like a leather out of it, so nothing is ever wasted.
But you see, people like Jed, real countrymen who understand the countryside and understand balance in the countryside, those people are not going out killing all around them. They take a surplus, they crop a surplus just as farmers would do so. You know, so I say thank you, Jed, for that. It was from the heart. It shows what hunting, to my mind, what genuine hunting people feel. They want to continue their sport, they want to continue their way of life, and they want to see balance in the countryside. Now we'll go on to Owen Mulcahy, who's Secretary of the Irish Working Terrier Federation.
Hello everyone, my name is Owen Mulcahy. I am the Secretary of the Irish Working Terrier Federation, a federation of amalgamated working terrier clubs across every county in Ireland, both north and south. We've kindly been asked today to provide the IWTF's opinion on the proposed private members bill into the banning of hunting of wild mammals in Northern Ireland, being brought forward by the Alliance Party MLA John Blair. We initially found out about this draft legislation back in late December, early January 21. The IWTF's initial thoughts were that it was a ban for the sake of a ban. Legislation being brought into effect, or proposed to be brought into effect, to appease a minority of fringe animal welfare voters that the Alliance Party were trying to garner. Again, our initial thoughts, but there is ample legislation and recent legislation already in place that is more than adequate to look after the welfare and protection of protected animals and Northern Ireland's wildlife, while also maintaining and continuing with normal hunting practices, which are selective, balanced, and humane. Two pieces of legislation and recent legislation that have been brought into effect in the last number of years are the Welfare of Animals Act Northern Ireland 2011 and the Wildlife and Natural Environment Act Northern Ireland 2011. Both of these pieces of legislation are more than adequate to protect Northern Ireland's wildlife. The bill in itself, when we got to read it, was deeply flawed. John appeared to go over and above the existing legislations that were in effect in other regions of the UK and in the Republic of Ireland and further afield. In his, I suppose you could say, enthusiasm for banning hunting, he also made it, or would have made it, illegal for anyone walking their pet out in the countryside if they chased a wild mammal, a criminal, and criminalised ordinary, decent, law-abiding citizens. Also, what we noticed during the whole process of the bill, as I said, zero stakeholders from the hunting community and indeed the IWTF were ever engaged with, including the farming community, which John said it was trying to allay that he has and was in discussions with us. He has never, not once. The hunting is the most selective and balanced approach out there. The simple fact is that wildlife in a man-made countryside has to be managed. Pests need to be controlled, albeit in a humane manner. The IWTF and its membership operates under a strict code of practice and has been doing so for a long period of time. In fact, this code of practice is internationally recognised. But John doesn't seem to think or doesn't provide any alternatives. If hunting was banned, they don't seem to have any alternatives in their proposal. Something will have to be done. Wildlife has to be managed. The ordinary people in the community, rural community, farmers in particular, realise this. Hunters realise this. So, the alternatives out there are, snaring, gassing, trapping, and some forms of shooting, all which are less humane, can be, environmentally toxic, and vastly expensive. John's and our opposition's alternative to hunting appears to be fencing, which is impractical. Trapping is impractical. You will never get every one of the animals at any time. So I think it's ill-conceived, ill-thought out, very biased, and I have no doubt that is the reason why we believe it has failed. What it has done, though, it has united the rural community, the hunting community, together. John has woken us up. We are now more together. We are also more than willing and able to fight off any future such legislation. And maybe we should thank John for putting the fire in our belly. If you ever need any information on the Irish Working Terrier Federation, it's available on www.iwtf.ie, and we will continue to support and defend our way of life for the continuing future. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Owen. And
hello,
again,
everyone. My name is Owen.
Again, we hope to have Owen and the Working Terrier Federation up at the Game Fair. They've exhibited with us in the past, and they put on a very good stand. And they're always very, very keen to speak to people about how they do their vermin control. As Kieran said, humanely, legally, and certainly not outside the law. You see, LACs are very clever in that LACs, there are some people who operate in the countryside who do not operate within the rules, and those are the people that LACs video and show people like John Blair and other MLAs and MPs. They show people that are not working within the rules as an example of what everyone is doing.
Yes, very much so. That's one of the points that they always try to do, and it's those that are acting outside the law that they try to target. And again, the league have a picture here of Northern Ireland where somebody was acting outside the law, where they took a test case, but that case was unsuccessful. But looking back there at if we look at the terriers as we're talking about them, if John's bill had gone through and the terriers had been banned, then it would have been the only part of the UK that would have happened. And again, if we look back to Scotland, where they actually looked into it in Lord Bonnamy, and we actually look at the comments of the Scottish Association Against Cruelty to Animals, they said that without a closed season for vixens, that there would be no other way or humane way to dispatch orphan cubs. So John's bill, although he said wouldn't affect other country sports, just straight off, by doing that, then there could have been a closed season for vixens, which would obviously have an impact on farmers. And how would the farmers supposed to look after their livestock? So again, there's a lot of impractical things here that haven't been thought out, and how actually when a terrier goes into the hole, it's not there to actually take on the fox, it's there to make the fox leave by standing off and barking at it and encouraging it to leave. So again, it shows the lack of understanding of the actual subject matter. And again, it's only whenever you actually get in with the likes of Owen, and Owen did a great job with Simon Coveney, who made similar comments, but after he engaged, and I welcome Simon Coveney actually doing that, engaging with the Irish Working Terrier Federation, his perspective and his comments changed overnight, and he actually seen what they were doing and the way that it was done and the fact that it was humane. So again, I was very disappointed in the way that John had put that across.
There's a couple of points to pick up on Charlie's video, which one has certainly irritated me greatly. In the media recently have been quoting this 80% as if it is fact. It is not fact. The 80%, first of all, came in a poll commissioned by LACs from Survation. And as I say, Survation do not carry out random sampling. They do it on a panel basis. I'm a member of the Survation panel because I was just interested to see how easy it was to become a member of the observation panel. And I recently have been surveyed on things which involve lax, involve hunting, etc. So, you know what I mean? It's so easy to rig those polls because simply you can get a number of people to join the panel. Now, Observation, obviously, like polling, they do try to make it as representative as possible by putting people into certain socioeconomic boxes and age boxes, etc. But it's not the same as random sampling. Now, we go back to the original poll, the polls in Belfast Live, and Rebecca, if you could show that poll. What I've chosen here is the one which is most favourable to the anti-hunting brigade. The earlier one actually was 65% no to hunting, 35%. But this one is 55% no to hunting being banned, and 45% saying hunting should be banned. Now, interestingly enough, and I use this one because that is exactly the same numbers in terms of percentages, in terms of how MLAs voted. So where John was saying MLAs weren't voting according to the poll, they were voting according to this poll, in that 54% of MLA, 54.8% I think was of MLAs voted against the bill, and 44% or 46% of voted for the bill, the other MLAs like John, etc. So it's very, very similar to that poll result. It wasn't out with that poll result. So therefore, it is very, very likely that the 80% is wrong, and this is more like it.
But then, if we go back to that Observation consultation, I know that you had written to them and asked what was your intro. What was your lead into the questions? And again, I don't think that ever come, did it, Albert?
No, you see, it depends, and I have carried out like literally hundreds, if not thousands, of academic research. You know, I have 340 references to my papers, and over that period of time, I lectured in for 22 years. I actually supervise, again, thousands of bits of research. And, you know, I'd be quite frank with you, had I looked at John's consultation exercise and the way he carried out, it would have been a big F, a big fail. I would have told him to go away and sort it out. Because, first of all, he started off with using that poll, and the observation poll. I wrote and asked him for a copy of the questionnaire. Because, obviously, when the results are meaningless unless you see how the questions were asked. You know what I mean? It's like, how often do you beat your wife? You know, a leading question like that, you don't ask leading questions. So John's consultation, in my opinion, and I'm very happy to rebut what he said on the video. First of all, he used a poll which I do not think reflected accurately the percentages in Northern Ireland. He used it as fact to kick off his consultation exercise. He followed that with leading questions as if the poll was correct. He then didn't put his consultation exercise within proper constraints. He did not follow the Assembly guidelines, because we got the Assembly guidelines on what he should have done, and respondents should have been identified as coming from Northern Ireland, either through their address, telephone number, etc. He didn't do that. So he said that he made the allegation that it was similar to other consultations. It may be, but the other consultations must have followed the guidelines either. So that left it open for people to, for example, LACS, to promote this consultation outside of Northern Ireland. And I would say a great number of the 80% of people that are being quoted as being against hunting are against hunting, but they're against hunting. They don't live in Northern Ireland. And I think, Gary, you have some experience, or Countryside Alliance have some experience of LACS trying to manipulate polls like this elsewhere.
Yes, my colleague Rachel Evans in Wales, when Natural Resources Wales were stopping shooting or doing the consultation to stop shooting on public land, out of the 12,706 respondents, it turned out that only 1,487 were from Wales, which meant that 88.3% of those respondents were actually not from inside Wales. So they were making decisions based on opinions outside Wales. But I do think that going on with the consultation itself, there was actually, I think it was one question that talked about the penalties that should be imposed. And again, it didn't give you an option for no penalty. So it didn't. So if you clicked on that at all, was that response then classed as you were for John Blair's bill? So there's how many questions did you need to actually be before it? Because people felt that they had no other option but to tick that one question.
Yeah, that's the thing. It kind of penned you in a way, didn't it? You had no way out.
No way
to answer
out.
only what they wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to pick a penalty.
Yeah, well, certainly, you see, I think the biggest thing was he didn't follow the Assembly guidance, which we did get and had a look at, Gary, and discuss where respondents had to identify where they came from. And I trust this is an omission by John, but omission or not, it was exploited by lax promoting to supporters worldwide. And as Gary said, they've done it elsewhere. And then these figures are quoted as fact in the media. And certainly the one thing that really grated most of all with me in all of this was when I hear this 80% quoted. And this is something we've got to put to bed. And I do intend to challenge it with BBC, U105, etc., and ask them to quantify, because they should know, and they should know that they're misleading. Now, the other couple of things I would make point, and I want to bring the boys in more. John differentiated between hunting with dogs and other country sports. He said that he wasn't against country sports. I was very glad to hear him actually mention how much country sports contribute to the economy and to conservation. But yet he didn't do any economic impact assessment for the bill. He talked about a few people losing their jobs, but it was much wider than that. He didn't do a security impact assessment, though he asked I understand he asked the chief constable about something, and then he talked about dog wardens getting involved in this sort of thing. So those are a couple of points. What I want to home in on is the threat, the wider threat. John paid a very lavish tribute to Ms. Watts from the League Against Cruel Sports for her assistance with the bill. Now, aspects of the bill and us assuming John didn't have intimate knowledge of country sports or hunting would lead us to believe the way the bill was tightened, much tighter than actually UK legislation, which actually helped its downfall. But it was much more swinging in its penalties, including criminalising people, criminalising farmers, perhaps criminalising dog owners, than the UK bill. And I would see lax hand in that probably in drafting that bit of it. What about you, Gary?
Definitely. You could see that whenever John was challenged on his bill, he wasn't able to come up with the answers straight away. Yeah. And if you'd actually written the bill and thought it through, you would know it inside out, and that clearly was lacking from John. And again, I do believe that there was other parties that were in it. In fact, at the ERA committee, he had somebody else to help him to answer the questions. So that opens it up, to anybody who's helped from behind the scenes. But if we go back just to Lax, they launched 2 weeks ago that they were going to have a petition in the Belfast Telegraph, and nothing ever come of it. So really, do they have an influence in Northern Ireland, bar a small footprint in terms of their representative?
I would say, in terms of numbers, the animal rights movement has always been small in Northern Ireland. They had, they did have an office which closed. They did protest at the fair, and that stopped because they said they hadn't been able to link the fair to cruelty. They had a little operation, a sort of paramilitary operation. I'm not saying that Lax did this, but there was the Animal Liberation Front were active in Northern Ireland, attacked me personally. They got a rather robust response. They attacked my house, they attacked my car, and I eventually did take legal action which involved them becoming liable under the Anti-Terrorist Act, which stopped a lot of the trouble. But they have never really been a big organisation, but their influence now through people like John seems to be great. And this is what really does concern me, in that, as I say, he paid a very lavish tribute to her assistance with this, and what concerned me was her involvement in a whole raft of animal welfare issues. Now, when I looked at their website, I was very interested to see what other animal welfare issues they were involved in. I thought maybe caged farm animals and all sorts of things. But second on their website after hunting, Rebecca, you put this up. And this is something that shooters who think that, they put it out a wee bit, Rebecca, hold No, you need to get further out yet. Shooters who think that shooting, John's not after shooting or they're not after shooting, should look at this. It is entitled Our Work to End Shooting. That's number 2 on their agenda. In terms of the numbers of animals persecuted and killed, no other cruel sport in the UK, including hunting, has such a devastating impact on animals. Find out more. So what they're talking about, this is going to be next on the agenda, amongst perhaps this raft of animal welfare issues. And while John might be saying his bill stops at hunting, there are other people that could come under the influence, other MLAs who could come under the influence of Lax, who would take this forward. Now, we've only to look at Packham thing on general licences and Northern Ireland's challenge on pigeons and crows. We have a petition going in the UK to ban woodcock shooting. Now, bearing in mind, I don't know whether you guys, but certainly in my day, all our shooting used to be mainly pigeons. I don't like shooting crows, it's just a personal thing, because they're very clever, probably cleverer than me. And I like the Rourke social organisation. I have shot a few for local farmers whenever their crops have been under, but I don't. But certainly a lot of people shoot pigeons. Woodcock shooting was every weekend. I was out woodcock shooting every weekend. So if these are taken away, thin edge of the wedge, shooting will go. They've also targeted in the first poll that John got his information from, they targeted snaring and they targeted game rearing. So that was part of that. John didn't mention that, although that was part of their first poll. So they're after shooting, will be the next thing on their agenda if hunting does go. So it shows why we all must stick together. If one goes, they'll all go eventually, because Lax will not be satisfied. To quote an ex-First Minister, you don't feed a crocodile. and you don't feed these crocodiles in particular.
Well, John was really setting up the steps. You know, this bill was coming under the pretense of hunting, but we could see the clear issues with it. And again, fair enough, it would have come in at the start and the focus would have been on hunting. But a bit like the magazine issue, where they had put magazines down as a component part, but it also said on your licence that you could hold magazines for the firearms that you held in your licence. Somebody would have come along in that 3 or 4 years later, and I'm like you, I'm a shooting man, and I could see the issues where we were doing the boundaries, and in the case, of course, of doing the boundaries, we set off, there's hares in our ground. We disturbed the hare, and there was a picture taken by a member of the public of 2 spaniels chasing that hare. That would simply come down where we would be in the dock, our guns would be lifted, so on and so forth. But John was already setting the scene. This bill was going to have an impact on the shooting. So it was, and then again, if you look at the other aspects of which the league want to, that would just be one angle for them to get in on, and then they would just keep expanding the arguments. And again, they'll do the same with angling whenever they get their chance. PETA have their issues, and I think it was Carrie Simons who the report that came out with her foundation or charity, whatever she works with, and it said about keeping fish in a keep net is starving them of oxygen, and we weren't dispatching them correctly, and so on and so forth. So the wheels are turning for us all, and it's only by standing together that we're able to rebut these arguments and kick them into touch and say, hold on a minute here, you're wrong, because these people just keep coming back, and as soon as one person has a go, somebody else picks up that baton, and we need to knock them into touch.
Yeah, certainly, there's no doubt about it. If John actually had got his bill through, whether he would have stopped or not, I don't know. He said he would stop at that, and I've no reason to doubt that, but someone else from his party could have picked up the bottom line of it. Now to go back to another thing that grated, the 80% really grated with me from a statistical point of view, because it's something I have expertise in. I also should say, without blowing my own trumpet, I have a bit of expertise in environmentalism because I've done a lot of academic research in that area. I'm a graduate biologist. I've been an environmentalist all my life. I'm a tree planter. And I'm going to ask John, has he planted more trees or have I planted more trees in terms of environmentalism? But seriously, most country sports people are like that because they love the countryside. They love to see other species. I love to see, you see the birds around here in the morning. I have a little flock of house sparrows waiting for me to feed the guinea fowl and things like that. We have a fox which actually does come past, and I have to say I haven't had the heart to shoot it because it doesn't look too well, but I will shoot it because I do think it's got mange. And I do think it comes down actually after the guinea fowl chase. It was so bad, but it's. I was worried in case it was a vixen, so I couldn't see from where I was in. But it won't be now. So.
But if I could just come back in on the 80%, and I do agree that it grates people. But if we look back at the actual debate, when Claire Sugden actually stood up, she said, "I have probably received more correspondence in support." Probably.
Yeah.
So she hasn't read it, and obviously the numbers aren't there, else she would say, "I have definitely." And in a response back from the First Minister, he said that the bill proposed did not maintain the widespread support it was believed to have, and through many representations received, it was clear to me that the proposals were overwhelmingly opposed by those living and working in the countryside.
Yes, exactly. The fact that this demonstrates quite clearly that because obviously the League Against Cruel Sports, with their petition and everything else, were lobbying hard as well. So I know we were lobbying as well, but it shows you that this 80% is a fiction, is a total fiction. It can't be sustained, and we may look at perhaps doing such a poll and see properly and see just exactly what happens.
Well, maybe it's a wider issue where we actually lobby government to say, look, whenever you're carrying out a public consultation, it needs to be for the people of Northern Ireland. So therefore, it should be something needs to really identify that you live in Northern Ireland. People from Donegal can't take part, Stephen.
Well, this does raise an important issue, because we all feel this 80% is totally wrong. John has used it. If it is wrong, he's used it to mislead.
Well, I actually got a question from a peer from the House of Lords, and I went back and again I shared it with you. There was pictures, Facebook snaps have taken from people in Australia, New York, Belgium, Holland. It was people from around the world, and from around the world survey, and you only get 18,000 responses.
Yeah.
It's actually very poor if you look at it on a global stage. But unfortunately, he was able to bring that down to the local stage and try and misrepresent.
And as I say, I'm not saying that he did deliberately. He may be cock-a-hoop because he was able to claim that it was the biggest consultation ever. But we haven't heard from him the breakdown, because he did say he was going to try to assess what was in and what was out. There was a bland statement. Oh, some people who were in support of hunting were from outside Northern Ireland as well, which one would expect. But nevertheless, this 80%, I think, has got to be rebutted.
But the issue is the fact that we, the public, paid for that.
Yeah.
Because we paid for it, us taxpayers.
Yeah.
He retains that information, because I asked the Bills office, and they said that the responsibility for that information is his. And you'll probably find that he was trying to use as little information as possible to get round GDPR or whatever that may be. But the fact of the matter is, it has to be representative of the people of Northern Ireland.
And it obviously wasn't. But the other thing that we'd like to pick up on, I think we're running okay on time, Stephen, is the whole thing about... The other thing that grated in the debate was with these people speaking with great authority on the other ways to control foxes. And I heard Chris Little come on, again, quoting the sort of nonsense that the League Against Cruel Sports come up with about fencing, scents on rags, I suppose... sensors that like deterrence,
diversion of feeding, and
yes, and the things that give a buzz and all. I've tried all of these with badgers, and I can assure you 100% they do not work.
Yeah.
But perhaps you would you are involved in vermin control, and you could give your own perspective on it.
Yeah, well, I spoke to John by email. And it wasn't until that time that it came out about the rabbits, because the rabbits were included in the bill completely. You want to be allowed no dog, and he said that. I said, so what's your alternative? What do you suggest? And he said fencing. So I said, okay, so we're going to fence. We're going to fence the whole countryside. So I said, does that apply to the fox? Yeah. So as Dan said, they were going to fence the antrim. How were they going to do that? And I said to him, so I'm going to just go somewhere around. Contracted to control rabbits and just suggest that we fence the whole place in. So what happens? How do the badgers move? How do the foxes move? How do the hedgehogs move? And then he said, well, we can use scent deterrent rags, which to me meant that he was going to put something of a scent deterrent, such as that scoot that you buy in B&Q.
That's what he was talking about.
John, really think about that, because because you don't know, there's also many other things that live in rabbit warrens. And I have took shell ducks, believe it or not, out of rabbit, only ever twice. Shell ducks, hedgehogs, frogs, newts, foxes, and badgers all live in the one load. A few times ferrets have put foxes out of rabbit warrens because they all. So we're going to go around and start stuffing scent-deterrent rags for animal welfare. So the bill that was intended to be for animal welfare is not really for animal welfare. So we're going to go around, fence off the countryside so the hedgehogs can't move, and start stuffing rags down holes. And that's his solution to...
Yeah, and you can imagine the Glens of Antrim fenced or covered in rags with scent. The other one, obviously, is the electronic scarers, which is the badgers trampled mine down here. And the other ones, they were... Diversionary feeding was the other one, and all diversionary feeding will do is bring in other vermin, including rats, mice, all sorts of things. It won't work. So none of the suggestions that they are talking about work. As young Dan said, the best way, when he is called out by farmers losing lambs to foxes, the only way that he can do it really in the glens is by the pack of hounds.
Yeah. And I also said to him, you know, what's something that you should think about is with a bill or whatever you want to do is gassing rabbits, because you've completely avoided that. So what we do there is go to a rabbit warren that could be any size, block all the holes and fill it with phos toxin, but that's okay.
But I think in his comment to you, he said about I haven't attacked other
inhumane methods such as ferreting and
and he mentioned shooting and he mentioned gassing and all the others. So
you know, and all that stuff. But I found the whole thing very, very strange, and also it was very strange. Well, not strange. It was obvious what was happening. Was that when I asked him a question, he took 2 days to come back. He wasn't answering the question. Somebody else was. Me from the answer.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing about it is that obviously John isn't a country person himself. Yeah. Although he claims to represent a rural community, he obviously hasn't taken the time to go and talk to people like yourselves, talk to the Irish Working Terrier Federation, go and see the hunt, talk to the hunt before this bill come down. All of the things that one would have expected someone bringing such a very vicious piece of legislation in a lot of ways, very restrictive, attacking people's livelihoods on one hand, but also their way of life. You would have thought that he would have consulted widely, which he didn't do. And that's where my biggest criticism of John comes in. I think he may be well-intentioned, misled by lax probably, but I think it was well-intentioned. But nevertheless, that became a misleading point of view whenever he didn't consult with the people who know better.
No, he just ignored the rural community that he claims to represent. You know, Alex Maskey said to the House, I think it was in February of 2020, just before COVID started, that if you're bringing a private members bill, you need to do it. It's a diligent process. You know, and John just didn't do his due diligence. He didn't see both sides of the argument. He just went off on the one. And again, he did the classic, which is what Lex do. They target the mounted hunts and they give that perception. And, you know, there's 12 mounted hunts, and there's 40 foot packs at least across the country. But they don't look at the foot packs because that doesn't create that emotive, and there isn't that class war, is there? And again, Dan's a plaster, you know, a contract plaster. He's not somebody who owns a multi-million-pound business.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. But a lot of those, I mean, a lot of the MLAs, there was a lot of stuff come back after the bill was unsuccessful. And one MLA I saw kept going on and on and on about fox hunting, and it was it was cruel and this and that, and the bill but there was so much more behind it. But they only seemed to see this front page of the guys and the horses. That's what he wanted them to see, not all the draconian stuff behind it that included rabbits and squirrels and dogs and how it was going to affect shooting.
But with the amount of work that was coming into the assembly, or the amount of work that's there, because if we look back, say 6-7 months ago, there was probably maybe 3 private members' bills, and there's now about 15. So they're all cramming them in. And was John just hoping on? And again, we have the primary legislation, which I think there's 18, off memory, there's 18 of those that need to be completed before the end of the mandate. Was he trying to get it in, to get it rushed through, slip it through, where he wouldn't be held to task on it, and the MLAs would literally have the night before or maybe that morning to read the bill and then challenge it or to do whatever, catch them on the hop? Well, hopefully that'll not happen when we go forward, because it will come again, just at a different time.
Okay, well, we'll debate this in the future, and I'm sure it will be ongoing, and we might be back here soon to talk about dealing with the next bill. But I'd like to move forward now to the other thing that we're looking at in 2022, the third of the three, with the book, with the defeat of the bill, and now is the game fairs. Now, Stephen, as most people know, is taking a lead role in the Southern Fair. We're still looking at it. We had this plan 2 years ago, Stephen, with venue and everything else, but we hadn't signed on the dotted line. Now, the problem is that we're still to discuss it this year, because we were thinking of moving full steam ahead until we saw the latest Omicron. Yeah. Because, quite honestly, Gary said to me, it must be costly every time you have to cancel the fair. Well, I can assure him it is, because we've had the fair planned, postponed 4 times, and I reckon a minimum of £5,000 a time. And that's with the goodwill of our suppliers, because the suppliers actually said, well, you have ordered this. Now we have done all sorts of things with George's help. What we've done is, we created the virtual game fair, which again free to everyone. And what we did to try to keep our exhibitors in business and selling, that's been a big success. Hasn't generated a lot of money for us, but we've also, George has put on various events, living history events, where we've got people visitor footfall into Antrim for, and we've videoed those, and they've been on the web. Through my brother Philip, we sponsored a horse show. Fair enough, it was in Portadown, but again, visitors and on the ground. And we sponsored, and through my position as president of the Ulster Gold Retriever Club, and we brought a triple show, a quite unique triple show, to Shane's Castle. Now, we had hoped to show video of that, but that video will be coming, and it'll be on our YouTube channel. But again, we had visitors from all over the UK and Ireland to that. So, we have tried to keep things moving, but we've got to look and think ahead to the threats posed by by the migrant. And obviously, I think we'll make a decision early January to move forward. Now, the good news is the Game Fair at Shane's Castle, we've all our existing exhibitors in place. We've got some new ones coming in, and we've some new attractions coming in. So we are good to go. And in fact, we were good to go last year, because we were one of the first to get good to go accreditation, not through the Northern Tourism and I, but I actually got it from Visit Britain before Tourism and I had the system in place. And we had worked with colleagues who run fairs in England and Scotland, and we had got the best of their precautions, and we had a very, very good risk assessment put in place, a good management plan. But at the time we had to say go, we couldn't get the go-ahead from the executive. But we have all of that in place. But we don't want to run an event that is in any threat to exhibitors, competitors, or the public. And so we will maintain that. So again, there's a lot of work to be done if we have to run the 2 fairs, but we certainly are very likely to run a Shane's Castle. And so we'll see how that goes. A new venue we'll have to discuss, but the venue is there for us. Good hosts, great venue, and it'll be a big success. So we'll wait and see on that. But in the meantime, we'll move, if you like, to County Antrim now. From county down to County Antrim. Now, we do, I'd like to thank Antrim and Newton Abbey Council for the support they do give to the fair. They've been good supporters over the years in a lot of ways, and they have given some support to the virtual game fair this year. They helped a little bit with the virtual game fair last year, but in return they got the biggest section in the fair, and we've certainly brought a lot of visitors, to their platform. Now, we were delighted that Jim Montgomery, the ex-mayor, could come for the launch of the book. And again, if you look through the book, there's a very big Antrim footprint in the book. So, including a special section by Stevie Munn on angling in Antrim, but also through the PR, through the game fair, etc. and of course County Antrim in terms of John Moore's paintings. Anyone reading that book will know County Antrim's a place to go, not only for the game fair, but for a lot of attractions. And so we're delighted to do that. So we thank them for their support, all of them, all the councillors, all of the staff. Of course, it's not all one-way traffic. As Paul Pringle, who is a good turn of phrase, said, you should remind them that it's like a drop of water in Loch Ness, because coming back, it is estimated and has been estimated independently that we contribute over 500,000 economic benefit to Antrim at the time of the fair, and 250,000 in positive publicity. Now that is very, very important, and especially going forward because of the ravages of COVID. And we are certainly hoping that the fair in Shane's Castle this year will be the biggest ever and bring the biggest contribution ever. And in terms of that, we hope that the Antrim Council recognise the work that we do put in. Now, in terms of the virtual game fair, since its launch in August 20, at the end of August 20, has had over 300,000 visitors from all over the world. We're hoping that this will knock it over the 350,000 visitors. But certainly, it's an active site, and as I say, the magazine also promotes Antrim. There's an ad every issue for Antrim in it. And we're hoping that country sports people from all over Ireland will come to support the game fair, will come to Antrim and enjoy the attractions of Antrim. And in some ways, John, as the member for South Antrim, may have done the game fair and Antrim a service by creating, as Owen said, putting fire in our bellies, that more people will want to come to the game fair this year to show their support for country sports. Sorry. Now, we'll go on. As I say, we're looking at County Antrim, and we couldn't go past George on County Antrim, because George is a County Antrim man. It would be very much a constituent of John Blair's. George runs a business, a motor business in Antrim, in the Antrim area. He's a farmer in the Antrim area. He's run these living history gatherings in the County Antrim area. And of course, he's I think third generation member of the Hunt, or second generation member of the Hunt? Fourth generation of the Hunt. Yeah, that's the fourth, below you as well as above you, above and below. So you know, he knows the County Antrim. He knows County Antrim well. In some ways, he makes a huge economic contribution to County Antrim as well. But anyway, when we were talking about hunting and how it affected County Antrim, I said, can we put a positive spin on hunting and County Antrim in terms of, rather than saying we oppose the bill? And so he said, we'll take you to County Antrim and the point to point. And so if we can show George's video on the point to point.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the Virtual Game Fair. We hope you're enjoying yourselves so far as you've been watching the live coverage and the films that have been put up for your entertainment. The director, Albert Titterton, asked me, in the light of this new bill coming forward, to go and have a scour out round the country and see what else is going to be affected by this bill. Not only hunting, not only you as a dog owner possibly coming under prosecution. This ill thought out bill has got so many question marks hanging over it. Hopefully it doesn't get through. So I went off to our local point to point and caught up with a lot of people in the horse industry. And you'll find their comments quite interesting as I caught up with them through the day. So come with me now and we'll go off to the local point to point, and we hope you enjoy it. Well, Colin, it's good to see you back again in the annual pilgrimage where we always seem to meet up. The point to points, obviously you love them, and I must explain, this gentleman is a reverend gentleman. He is a minister, so it shows that all walks of life are involved in hunting and the point to points and everything. You love it?
Well, I was brought up with it, and it's the one thing I've maintained all my life. Love the horses, love the racing, hunted, rode point to points, rode the track a little bit, and now I'm a steward. Today I'm chair of the stewards here at East Antrim. It's always a great meeting, always good fun, and so important to the whole racing world, especially for the young horses coming through.
Yes, we're getting this thread. This is the starting ground for a lot of horses that will go on to be thick and famous someday, and from this track in particular, some have already showed up their form. Do you find it, because it's the hunt clubs, that it's the racing, did they play a big part in that? Do you think that's where it all starts?
Hunt clubs are very important. I mean, these point-to-points, these amateur racing wouldn't be there, wouldn't be existing if it wasn't for hunt clubs. And hunt clubs have to do a lot of work to put them on, and they really are to be commended for that. And as I've already sort of alluded to, the young horses coming through is the point-to-points are so important to that, especially the National Hunt Horse, and many have gone to top, as you suggested. And then even for the ones above the 4 and 5 year old age group that aren't been moved on, there's a sport for people, and there's a fun, and there's a way of using your horse outside the hunting.
Yeah, very much so. The racing industry and the horse industry has become a big economical benefit to the countryside, isn't it? We're selling the horses, we're exporting them, we're breeding them. Everybody is really, really into it in a big way. I know the fun's out of it compared to what it used to be. You nearly pulled the horse out of the plough to race the next Saturday, but now it's become so professional, and with it being so professional, money is spent to achieve that.
That is true. I mean, I suppose it's a lot more professional now. I mean, I was like a sack of potatoes in a horse, but you did it for the sheer fun in those days. But nevertheless, you could still got the good horses coming out of it, the good steeplechasers, horses that went on to win the Grand National. So it's just very important to the economy of the equestrian industry, the racing industry, which is big in Ireland. And so we don't lose the hunt clubs, we don't lose the point-to-point.
Yeah, very much so. And we keep talking about the horses, but we also have the young jockeys. This is where they learn the ground. Dunwoody hunted with East Antrim hounds, and they all go on to cut out a real good career.
Absolutely. Jockeys, I mean, jockeys in Ireland, it's still a grassroots support here. I know it's got more professional and there's more money in it, and you might lose some of the kind of fun of it, but at the same time, it's still a grassroots sport here, which produces horses, trainers, riders, owners, and a very good industry.
And also the social side of it, which has become sort of part and parcel of the whole story, isn't it?
Great crack. I mean, look, you're getting fresh air, bit of exercise, and it's good crack. And people, real people, down to earth people, no airs and graces. It's great. Loved it all my life. Still love it, even though I'm a mile boy now.
Well, we can always dream. Colin, listen, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us. I see the next race get out, and I know you being you'll want to go and watch every last step of it.
I'm chair of the stewards today, so I'll have to do my bit.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, we're joined again by another one of the sponsors. It's Glenpatrick Horse Boxes.
Glenpatrick Horse Boxes, Barclay Communications and WorkPal, I think. So we're getting all of the company names in there.
Just right when I get the opportunity. Well, obviously sponsoring these events and putting money back into sort of the rural community and helping it to thrive is important to your company.
Oh, big time. We are very involved in the horse world ourselves. It's a massive passion for us, country life, and we live about 5 minutes from here, so we love to support local horse events like this.
Very much so, and very successful yours too. But you also hunted. I know your father hunted. Yes. Him and me sort of had many's a good day and together and still going. Do you find the hunting, I know you play polo.
I do.
Do you find that out in the hunting field has made you a better rider?
Oh, definitely. I think with the hunting, you have to be ready for anything. Ready for many's a ditch or whatever you come across, and I think as a rider it definitely improves, and it's helped me even in the polo, just to, it's a very fast sport, and yeah, you have to be ready for anything.
Yes, you find the third leg, as we used to call it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And it's also good for schooling young horses and bringing them on to take part in the different disciplines that they take part in.
Yeah, even we have show jumpers, young show jumpers and eventers and horses, sport horses. Sometimes there's nothing better for the horse than that, to get it out for a day's hunting. get it moving forward. Sometimes those show jumpers can be cold big things, and take it out for a day's hunting, and it really gets the horse going again.
Yes, I suppose like you and me getting a night out every now and again.
Yeah, you need a break, you need a night out every now and again. Yeah. I probably get too many.
Break the mold.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're going to have a bit of fun today, hopefully, and thanks for taking time to talk to us.
No, thank you.
And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks very much, George. Cheers.
Thank you. So we're joined by Kevin Ross here, a gentleman that sort of goes looking for prospective, up-and-coming top racehorses. Kevin, you come along to the point today. Obviously, you're out in an eye spy job to see something for potential clients.
Oh, certainly. This is the grassroots of potential stars, in the national hunt game. There's been many Gold Cup winners, Grand National winners have all started in point-to-points. And I'd have to be here to view them and, try and pick out something special.
And you always will, obviously, but do you find these point-to-points and the hunt clubs running these point-to-points are really, really, really important?
Oh, it's extremely important for the whole industry. So it is. The top buyers all buy from point-to-points. The hunt clubs they run them brilliantly. It's very professional, and it's a must in the whole national hunt industry.
Yeah, I know it's a sort of a very low, the end of the sport, but it's still the spade work. It's nearly the most important bit at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, most of these young horses, 4-year-olds, will be sold, and they'll go to the big yards in England and Ireland, and hopefully in a few years' time they'll be household names.
And we have seen that happen time after time.
Oh, time after time. I actually rode a horse, Bindery, and he ended up winning the Grand National, and he started in a point-to-point, So
yeah,
lots of them.
So it is the development, and not only that, we sell the horses all around the world. It's a very huge industry now. It used to be it was just around the local doors, but now it's got so big, and transport, etc., it's made so accessible. Horses can be in Japan tomorrow.
Yeah, well, for instance, last year, the winner of the 4-year-old mares actually won the American Grand National last week, so that just proves the point.
Yeah. So we're appealing to a worldwide thing, and it must be huge benefit to the economy of Northern Ireland.
Oh, certainly. So many people in these jobs riding out horses, all those young horses, stud hands. It's a huge industry, and the point-to-points is the grassroots, and that's where it starts.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying to me is if they ever do away with point-to-points, do away with hunting, do away with hunt clubs, there's going to be a very, very massive hole there to fill.
It'll be a disaster for everyone in the national hunt industry. So it will. I couldn't see how we'd go on without it.
Yep. Well, listen, I know there's a race about to start and you have your binoculars out and you're looking for that special one today, and we hope you find it. Wish you all the best, Kevin, and thanks for taking time out with us.
No problem. Thank you.
Well, we're lucky enough to be joined by one of our sponsors here, Raymond Hill. He's come along, obviously he sponsored it, but he also has come along to enjoy the day. Raymond, sponsoring these events, it's important, isn't it?
I think very, very much so, George. It's part of our heritage, it's part of our country scene, part of growing up. I've become to point-to-points probably the last 30, 40 years, and especially after the big lockdown we've had in the last year and a half and so forth, it's great to get people out again, out in the fresh air, and it's all type of people, the young, the old, and in betweens.
Yes, it's great to support the rural community and our way of life out in the country, isn't it? A lot of people are down on the horse racing, or down on hunting, down on everything, but they don't see the bigger picture and what it really means to the economy and the people that it affects.
Well, exactly, George. These horses are looked after better than some kids, and they do wrap them in cotton wool. It's great. You can see yourself, the horses love being out in the fresh air. They love their jumping. If you saw the last race there, a couple fell off, but the horse got up and still done the 3 mile course. So it's great, and it's very important for the young people, the kids here today, to understand, about the life of the country things and all the horses and etc.
So it is. You're busy at yourself, I know, you have the car auctions and many more fingers in the pie, and you just like to give back to
what you've sort of got out of the countryside?
Oh, very much so. We all have to stick together on these difficult times and support each other. And and it's great to see so many people here today, and great to see old faces out for a chat again, and out to meet people that you maybe only see once a year at the point-to-point at the races. So yeah, keep it all going. Well done to the organisers, and please keep this going, because this is certainly a very big part of our community.
Well, Raymond, thanks very much. I will let you go back to enjoying yourself and have a good day.
Thank you, George. I hope we see you next year.
And the same. Thank you.
Cheers.
Well, I'm joined here by Brian Crawford, a well-known jockey and well-known man out in the hunting field as well. So we're just going to chat how important point-to-pointing is really in the whole big scene of country life and how things go. Do you find that the point-to-points are a big social event to start with?
Very much so, very much so. I'm probably relatively new into the racing side of things. We come from probably an eventing background, and we're only probably into the racing point to point in the last 10 or 12 years. But it's very much like your local communities come together, your hunt clubs bring all your farmers together. You know, it's a social day out for a lot of people. It's like some farmers, they have Balmoral would be a calendar marker in the year. A lot of other farmers would have a point to point. Their local, like say here, Patrick, all your local farmers be involved in helping it run it, you know.
Very much so. I was here during the week while it was getting ready, and it was just surprising how many farmers turned up to offer their assistance in that and give a hand and did help. The point-to-pointing part of the sort of the hunting scene, it's very important. It's where the young horses start out their life in their racing career. Would it be fair to say that?
Without a shadow of a doubt. Like I know originally, to run on a point-to-point, you had to get a hunter certificate, which actually meant that you had to go out and have a day's hunting with the horse to prove basically that he had his basic understanding of survival and rideability. And he got then his hunter certificate, and he could then go on and race in point-to-points. Now you still have to register through your hunt club, but you don't necessarily have to have a day out hunting. But it's still your major grounding and basics for getting a horse and educating him for his career on the race course and further afield.
Yeah, very much so. So it's a big industry, the racing. Nobody really maybe realises just you've got your feed merchants, your vets, your blacksmiths. There's so much tied up in all this now, isn't there? You know, it extends further than just in the stable, in the yard. It's a big economical feature in the countryside.
Without a shadow, and everything from, as you said, your farriers, your feed merchants, but even to your local silage and farming contractors. Like I know here, for example, you have like Bob McKnight. You know, he's connected with the hunt, but his son as a contractor, his machinery is used to help prepare the course, help to repair the course afterwards. You know, so like it's amazing how many paths that are affected by it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you've got a couple of rides today. Are you going to give us any tips?
I've one. We've one nice mare to run. She's a bit of an older. She's a 6-year-old mare. She's had a couple of nice runs actually here. One of her best results has been here. She was third one day. So it's her first run of the season, and like hopefully we can pick up where she left off. And
well,
so a bit of luck.
We wish you all the best, Ben, and thanks for taking time out and coming and speaking to us. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, George.
Well, we hope you enjoyed.
And again, from County Antrim, where we're going back to with the game fair on the 25th and 26th of June. Now, George, obviously, that indicates again another event, hunting related, and country sports really, that brings economic benefit to Antrim.
Very much so, Albert. This hunting thing that everybody seems to get a bee under their bonnet about, they never settle themselves down to concentrate what I've been shouting about. What's the ripple effect of all this? So there's a multi-billion business, as in the horse industry, is going to be hit if the hunt clubs disappear. Who's going to run the point-to-points? You know, these things have all been thought out. Obviously not, because I'm sorry, but Mr. Blair, when questioned in the House about his thing that he brought forward, and that's what I'm calling it, a thing, it's not even a bill, he couldn't even answer the question straight. And I doubt even if the man understood it himself. And this is what the big problem is. When people bring these bills forward, nobody really sits down to concentrate on what's going to happen out there. You know, who's affected? Is this having a social impact? Is this having people gone into depression impact. It's all these things are put together. And I went out and I've looked at it and I've talked to all the different sort of areas that I think that the people is going to be feeling feeling really withdrawal symptoms, if you want to put it. And the racing industry there, as you've seen, is going to be what? It's going to be a disaster for them. It's not, well, we'll get over it and we'll get something to replace it. There's nothing to replace it with. It's going to be a disaster. Do you know what I mean? And we're talking a multi-million industry here.
Yeah. And you see, the other thing you're talking about, you see, another one of the lax survey question was in greyhounds. So they were going to hit the greyhound racing as well.
Everything was going to be hit. I actually read into it, and this is going to sound, everybody's going to say you're talking rubbish here. I actually seen a little thread attacking the fishing in it, because it was coming down to the mammals and the wildlife, and it was their pain, and it was ever. And if they could ever get the backing for that at all, well, that's their foot in the door. Well, people don't want any animal to suffer pain, and this is where the whole thing is lacking.
Yeah, well, you see,
none of us want to.
You see, PETA certainly have targeted that, and obviously their fellow travellers with lax. But you as I said, you're a businessman in Antrim. Have you tried to engage with John?
Oh, very much so. I've obviously sent him personal emails. Our local master, then the master of the East Antrim Hounds, sent him a personal invitation to attend the puppy show day, where he could have come and visited the kennels and seen all what was going on. Like a man that brings forward a bill that has never went to a day's hunting or visited his local kennels, how can he stand in front of anybody and give an opinion? Because he hasn't got an informed opinion. He's only got what somebody's filled his ear with. It is not his own genuine opinion. So if the man is really serious about being this hunting bill, why doesn't he take up the reins and come and see these people?
Well, are you happy to issue John again with an invitation to go to the kennels?
I would say from our master, it's not my hunt club, right. But I would say it's an open invitation from our hunt club and from the local hunt fraternity.
And the point to point as well.
And to come along to the point to point. He's maybe been to the point to point, I don't know. Our local MP comes to our open puppy show day up at the kennels, and so does a whole lot of the other local MLAs and that. So for a man, is he running scared? Was he scared that he was going to get asked an awkward question or two about it? I don't know. Maybe that's wrong.
But he may have felt he was going into a hostile environment. But on the other hand, I've been very, very grateful that most of the debate towards John has been civilised. And for him, actually, that the fact that his bill attacks people's livelihoods as well as abiding interests and their way of life, I'm amazed that it has been so civilised, and I'm thankful for it, and I hope that continues, because I don't think John's a bad person. I have to say, I've said there that I have a respect for John in a lot of ways. I don't have respect for him in this, because I think he has basically been misled by lax.
Listen, the gentleman would have been more than welcome to the kennels. Nobody, we're not Philistines as we're made out to be. Yeah. And I think this is what's the public and the press is trying to portray to the public, that hunt people are Philistines, they live in the dark ages, and they're monsters, and they should be get rid of. It's all untrue. Well, it depends what way you want to believe or whatever. But as I keep arguing, that if you went to buy a car tomorrow, you would go for a test drive on it, wouldn't you, to see if you like it or you don't like it, and form an opinion. Well, to me, anybody that's saying, oh, I'm anti-hunt, if they keep a cat, well, the first thing you're going to have to do is get rid of your cat if you're anti-hunt, because it'll kill more wildlife in a week than probably a pack of hounds will in a whole season. So, where is the line drawn here?
Yeah. Well, anyway, we've discussed John, and perhaps the next time we have one of these live streaming, we'll invite him on. He's always been a fixture at the Game Fair, and I'm extending the invitation to John as a representative of the area to be at the Game Fair this year again, and to meet and engage with the people here. And I'm sure all of us would be happy to engage with John about the Game Fair. Now, we will be having hunts at the Game Fair. What else, George, will you be bringing to the game fair?
Well, I'll bring whatever you say, Albert. I can come with a Viking ship, or I can come with a World War II plane. Like, it just depends what notion you're in at the time. I know what you're like.
Well, George, we talked about bringing Vikings the last time because we talked about bringing Vikings from all over Ireland. And we talked about the fact that Vikings had come up the ban, and that Vikings, obviously the legend of O'Neill and the old Red Hand of Ulster was a Viking one.
Well, the big thing is the site itself, Shane's Castle, on that very site is said to have been formed by the Vikings, whereby, as you know, the father couldn't make up his mind. They raided on the lake around the loch all year, and they got too many slaves gathered up and had to leave some of their own men behind. So he decided he would leave his own men behind, and the eldest son, he wanted to be the ruler of these men when they were left to overwinter and around Antrim. And the father thought, no, he just was too young and inexperienced, and he'd wanted one of his more stronger warriors to look after him to come back. And to start the argument, he said, well, whoever's hand touches the shore first. So the son seen he was getting beat, so he stood up and cut his hand off and threw it at the shore, so as he would do it with the typical Viking mentality. will not be beat, and there the rest is history.
Well, we've been planning for 2 years with the Vikings, and I've made some connections in the south, and I think we would really like to put on a really big Viking display this year. But through the 2 or 3 gatherings you ran and videoed, I rather liked the World War II and the World War I as well. So we'll have to talk about this, but what you can be assured that one, you'll be there firmly supporting hunting.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yes, and you will be there with probably one of the best living history displays we've ever had at Shane's Castle.
Well, that's always the plan. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bigger and better every year.
Bigger and better every year. Yes.
And certainly, I do think that it's important when people look at the point, they look at the game fair, and they see what country sports brings to the area. And this, for 2022, we're going to show a little video of what happened in the south of Ireland when they tried to banish hunting. Now, there was an organisation formed called RISE, and you'll see walking in will be Des Croft, the NARGC Chief Executive, and my old friend Tulla Coffey, who wrote the wild-fowling bit in there with his water spaniel, leading in a nominal 2,000 protest into the fair. It could have been 10,000, because in the next election, they showed their power, because at the time that the hunting was opposed, the Greens had 2 ministers and 6 TDs. The next election, they had none of either, because the RISE voted tactically to put them out. Now, we're not suggesting that at this moment in time. What we're hoping to do is to have a similar demonstration of strength, of feeling from the whole country sports community at the fair. And hopefully that, plus your huge living history display, will give us one of the biggest fairs ever. The attractions are already piling in. And we hopefully, between thinking, we will ask people, we'll ask the council thing, we'll ask elected representatives from Antrim to think just what the country sports community brings to the Antrim economy.
Yeah, I'll put it a wee bit stronger to them, Albert, because this happened before, and the big problem in Northern Ireland is, as we all know, it's all orange and green politics. But one thing our MLAs must be aware of, there is no such thing as orange and green when it comes into our sport, our country sports. It crosses the divide. It's about the only thing in this country, in my opinion, that does cross the divide big ways. And you can see in the way the south there was coming up to back us the whole way up. And I think this is one of the big rocks that any of these MLAs will perish on if they think we're going to go out and do this tribal voting the next time round again, because we won't. We will stick up for what they're coming into your my hip pocket now. That they're not coming into usual run of rhetoric policies that runs Northern Ireland, and I think whenever your stress relief from all that we have is being attacked, well, you're going to guard that with all your integrity, and I think that'll be the rock they'll perish on. If they think that the people's going to still vote this orange and green system, we won't be voting the orange and green system. We'll vote like we did a way back not that long ago. And put certain people.
It'd be rural. It would be rural because in the south, the rural community was called Rise. Rural Ireland Rises. It says enough, and they voted across party lines. And bearing in mind, in the south, families vote Fianna Gael or Fianna Fáil.
Yes.
Like families, because of the Civil War, that they left and went for. They basically backed those candidates who were pro-country sports. And we hope that will be the case again here. But we also hope to show at Shane's Castle. As you say, we do a lot for the Antrim area with the Game Fair. We also get the magazine printed in W.G. Baird in Antrim, and the book was printed in Antrim by W.G. Baird. So we're committed to the Antrim area. You're even more committed because you live in the Antrim area, you have a business in the Antrim area, you farm in the Antrim area. And what I hope to show in a positive way at the Game Fair is just how much the country sports community can bring to the Antrim area, because I think we will have more people up from the south of Ireland this year than ever before, people like Owen and everyone else, to show their support for their fellow country sports people in Northern Ireland. Very, very good for relations north and south, very good for relations between Protestant Catholics, because that doesn't come about it. That doesn't come up in country sports.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. That this is a bit of the rock. It's not orange. There's no religion in sport, and that's what everybody should remember. There's absolutely
nor in living history.
Or in living history.
Because what is interesting is that we have dealt with living history at the Game Fair, not only through your own living history, which has all sorts of sectarian and all sort of sex and no sex, but also, even in the 1916, and that we did it on both sides, and from that point of view, the 2016 but 1916 commemoration, we had a UVF display and we had an Irish history display. So we have always been, the fair has always taken that focus, and I think it'll be re-emphasised this year by the number of country sports people from all over Ireland will come. But I'd like to show just a little video of one of the biggest fairs we ever had, and that was in Burcastle when Rise came to the fair. And what is very interesting is, and it wasn't deliberate because I hadn't seen this clip until John ran it through, there's actually, John Blair has a fleeting run across the stage in his capacity with DAERA. Now, I have to say at this stage, John was very supportive when he was Deputy Mayor of the Game Fair, and at DAERA, he was the man who actually provided the fish for the pudding take fishery. He talked earlier about the country sports and the young, about how good it was for the country sports, country sports about the involving young people, and he certainly played a big role in this. This clip runs on to show the put and take fishery at the fair. But John was responsible for that, and I'll always be grateful to John for his support in that. And to say, I hope, and as my own personal hope, that John will say, democracy is ruled, and I will leave the bill. But irrespective of that, he's welcome at the fair this year, as he has been in the past. Could we play that clip?
Very, very visitor-friendly, exhibitor-friendly, and organiser-friendly.
We've always had very clear objectives for our fairs and, of course, for Irish Country Sports and Country Life magazine. We promote and defend Irish country sports and the rural way of life. We inspire and educate the young.
We're here at the DAERA Put and Take Fishery with Bobby Brands from No Salmon Netting at Sea. And Bobby fishes all over the world, and he has used that expertise to try to encourage the young here at Shane's Castle.
We have 12 rods fishing here at the minute. If need be, I can put it up another 5 rods.
Right, and are the fish biting?
The fish are biting well today. I would say 99% of the children are going away with the fish.
And probably the first fish that they will ever catch?
Yes, and I hope it will lead them on to bigger things and be able to become an angler in their days.
Protect the environment and provide a meeting place and forum for country sports enthusiasts from all over Ireland and further afield. And we do this by delivering an entertaining, family-focused event packed with the
Well, you can see at Birr the Rise demonstration. Say we asked for just a token because of a maximum of 2,000. So it was represented from various groups and various clubs because we didn't want the fair to come to a complete standstill while the speeches and that were going on, and people obviously have to trade. We hope to replicate something like that to show the strength of feeling from throughout Ireland against any future interference with our sports. And of course, obviously, this will be good for Antrim too because the people will be visiting Antrim, many for the first time. There's a lot of attractions in Antrim other than the Game Fair. And if you go to the virtual Game Fair, you'll see the various attractions and all sorts of various. We've excellent hotels. We've got good water sports. We've got cracking pubs and restaurants. And it really is a very good place to have a staycation. So just go out on a little video of some of the water attractions of Antrim.
Very, very visitor friendly, exhibitor friendly.
Tens of thousands of country sports people wanting to visit the Game Fair in the 25th, 26th of June. Hopefully we'll be able to produce a show of strength of country sports feeling against any interference with their sport. George here will be putting on the finest display of living history and hunting that has ever been seen. And obviously Stephen here with the tackle will take us out with a tackle. But just before that, a reminder, if you haven't already liked and commented on the live stream, there's books to be won, there's Feedwell dog food to be won, there's Feedwell are celebrating their 60th anniversary soon, and we've the Red Mills Engage, a couple of prints, Master McGrath print and the Woodcock print. And also remember, if you haven't ordered your book, they're going very well, and this is something that you as a country sports person should have in your library and hand down to your children. Hopefully it will be, look at the way Grandad and Daddy did it, and we're still doing it. George, a quick comment.
Yes, very much so. The coming from a long line of hunters in the family sort of thing, and I'm sort of the second generation, we're third and we're fourth and we're fifth. We're probably a fifth generation coming on now, which will hopefully will still be talking about being fit to hunt as we've all enjoyed. The Game Fair, certainly this year, all my men are looking forward to it as regards to living history, and it'll be big. And as you were saying, it'll be a big opportunity to turn out and show the strength of the sporting people and their feelings, because we need a rally point. You know, if this gentleman here has carried the flag, and yourself then having a rally point maybe in the summer, just to let them know that the time has come, that we've had enough, and we don't mind you sort of rattling your sabre a bit, so long as you don't pull it out of your sheath. And I think that's the stage we've got to now, that we're going to have to, because I posted on Facebook not that long, put the last coffin nail in this and finish it off and put it to bed, because I know it's going to keep rising its head, but like, this is a second go at it now. They're going to, maybe third time lucky they're counting it, but
hopefully we can help put it to bed, and in a positive way at the Game Fair, where Antrim and Newton Abbey Council area benefit economically from putting it to bed.
Yep, well, coming from that part of the world, I'll definitely be a thumbs up for that, if you know what I mean. As you've seen there, we've seen the point-to-point, well, it's a 2-day point-to-point over Easter. And there again, it's like the Game Fair, it benefits, you know, there's people coming up and staying for the 2 days, for the weekends racing and that. So these country sports do benefit the economy, and okay, you maybe anti-hunt, but you don't realise there's 3 big events in the area, and you're working in a hotel or doing something somewhere, and they're helping paying your wages. You're not going to say, hold on, I'm not taking that money because of the background of where I've earned it. No, you don't. You put it in your hip pocket and you go on. So it's a matter of live and let live. And
of course, you know, Jed Donna, who was on there, who was talking about educating the young in country sports, he ran the largest terrier and nurture show. It's mentioned in the book, where he raised £8,500 for charities.
Well, this is another big thing that everybody does. You know, well, okay, it's brilliant that happens, and always will argue with you, somebody else will step up to the plate and make more money for charities, but they're never going to do it in the way the country folk do it. I don't care if you're running, you go to the local Presbyterian churches or the chapels or whatever, and there's a bunwary on, as my mother calls it, where there's a bring and buy sale or something, they'll all turn out and it'll be well supported, and probably the same in the towns. But it's just that rural way of life, and it's the last hanger on. I would say those things are near all but gone in city life now. But the country still has its traditions, it still has its old way of doing things. It's maybe, some people say, set in its ways, but it's them set in the ways that's got us through to where we are, and has educated our children for the last 100 years. Do you know where I'm coming from? And it's that mentality that things are kept and traditions are kept alive. And what does people want to buy today? All they want to do is buy living in the past. You know what I mean? The next step is getting Mr. Virgin to get you a seat to the moon. You know, that's for a lot of people, that's all that's left to do now. So, but what they're doing now is they're wanting to go back in time, and I see this through our living history. You know, as we do the living history.
A good plug for the living history.
Yeah, but as we do it with the living history, people want to stand on the Viking ship and row round and up and down the river, or be a night for a day, or one of the biggest selling tourist attractions actually is in the south, whereby a hotel, which I will name nameless, puts up a full week to come and live as a lord and a lady in the 13th century, like a knight, and have your squires and maidens. And those hot 2 seats are selling for well in excess of 100,000. Yeah. So to me, if that's what is happening and what people's wanting to pay for, it tells you that tradition does matter, obviously. You know, okay, you're going to have to pay 3 million. Maybe it's cheaper than paying 3 million to go to the moon, but you know, but you know, that's, you know, I think our traditions, we mustn't lose our traditions, and by wiping your country sports out, no matter whether it's fishing, shooting, hunting, wherever it comes from, every time one of those is knocked off the pedestal, it's just another thing for our grandchildren and our great grandchildren coming. Is going to lose out so much in life's experience in the countryside, you know.
Yes, you know, I mean, this is one of the motivations for us in producing the book. We wanted to show what would be lost by threats to our sports, because you know, and that I think motivated so many people, including Turlough Coffey, off his sick bed to write the bit, because he feels so passionately about the environment. He's lived his life in the environment he wishes to live in, a balanced environment, with his hunting and his shooting and that. And obviously, you know, he got off his sick bed to write that because he felt so passionate that it had to be put down.
Well, this is the big problem, I think, that nobody understands. probably the hunters and the shooters and the fishers are the biggest guaranteed conservators of our countryside, because they will guarantee everything will have a place and a place for everything. Who's going to, if we do stop fishing, if we do stop hunting, if we do stop our pheasant shoots, who's going to maintain the rivers? Who's going to look after the copse and the woods? Who's going to feed the wildlife through the winter? All the wild birds. I know the gamekeepers and one of the guys that looks after a bit of a shit I have at home gave off about all them wildlife are eating more than the pheasants. Well, my attitude is, so what? That's what it's all about. What you have to put back what you take, and as you were saying earlier on, your return on your pheasants isn't all that good. But it's not even going out to shoot. I have people comes to the shoot and they say, look, George, I don't even want to take the gun now. I want to go for the walk and just work my dog and sort of.
It's a very big point that no one that I know goes out to kill animals. They go out to shoot for a bit of sport. And often especially when I was shooting woodcock and things like that, often the day's sport might have been one woodcock for 3 or 4 guys, but it was the dog work and everything else. And I don't think that we're portrayed as bloodthirsty people, subhuman. Someone called me this morning. I thought I was laughing. Another one said about that I was an imbecile. I said, well, you look at my CV and your CV and see who's the imbecile. But that does irritate some people, But anyway, that is something that we must get across. So we've 3 big themes there, George. They're all coming from you: living history, conservation, and hunting. And we want to show people at the game for those 3 things.
They work hand in hand.
They do.
It's poetry in motion. Okay, I'm a bit passionate about it. But when everything works and falls into place, why break it? If it's not broke, why try and mend it? And this is what's happening in society today. Forgetting about hunting, go to other things that people are trying to stop, and you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that. And everybody wants to put a lead on you now and drag you down the road. It's got to the stage that nobody probably really realises it. And okay, it's open to interpretation, but anybody that I spoke to with a brain said, will you, as a dog owner, if the bill had a passed, walk down the street and you let go of the lead and it took off after a squirrel or a rabbit, and somebody caught that on their phone, which, believe you me, that's what happens now. Yeah. That's everybody's just keeping an eye. Talk about Big Brother. Everybody's watching you now with their phones. Slipped it on, don't like it, down to the local barracks. There you go. Bang, you have a £20,000 fine and a possible 2 years swing in prison.
And it was a pursuit, and it was the fact that you engaged in an activity. It wasn't the motivation. They weren't going to check your motivation. So someone could genuinely, deliberately let their dog go, and he or she would be as guilty. Would be the person who hadn't let it go. Who let it go accidentally would be as guilty as the person who did deliberately. Yeah. And this was all, I think, Lax inspired to, as they said, to tighten up loopholes in the UK legislation. And that, Gary, we'll move on to you for a final comment.
For me, we as a country sports community are the sorts of people that don't want to create a fuss. And we, to a certain extent, apathy. So it is, we just think it's not going to happen. It is, if we don't actually motivate ourselves and stand up there and say, we do X, Y, and Z, if we hunt, shoot, or fish, we have to have the commitment to stand by our sport and to see it into the future. In terms of Albert and the book, it's an absolutely fantastic book. I had a look through it at the day in Stormont. I haven't had my copy yet, but I'll soon get one off you. But I hope that my generation is putting the next copy of that book together for future generations, as you did your first one. This is your second. Hopefully it'll fall down to my generation.
Well, this will definitely be my last one.
And we were able to carry it on, so
yes,
that there's a history through.
So.
But no, as I say, just don't sit still. Promote our sport any way that we can. And again, the Game Fair is a fantastic way of doing that. And enjoy your sport and promote it to others.
And now I want to pass on to Stephen to finish off. Stephen's going to be, if you like, taking certainly the Game Fair in the south forward and working with me in the north.
Now, this is the sort of dog that would have been a criminal. Doesn't he look terrifying? This is a dog that will hunt. Actually, he will hunt anything.
Yeah, they would hunt anything.
It's like we were talking about pygmy shrews the other day, which I have a few of. Pound for pound or ounce for ounce, the toughest animal alive. This is a dog that was used initially for badgers.
Yeah, that's right, bred for badgers.
And would obviously tackle a fox. But this is a sort of little dog whose natural instinct is to chase, to hunt, to go down holes. And this little dog would have been a criminal, or Stephen would have been the criminal, had he this dog out off the lead. Now, the thing about it is, this is a hunting dog. It's a dog that is trained to hunt, and therefore to have it on a lead would almost be criminal, restricting its whole natural instinct. And the natural instinct of that dog is to pursue vermin. And of course, the vermin's natural instinct is to kill anything that moves. And I don't think people, this again is a great, the media were showing 2 little fox cubs in some shredded paper. Now, that's not what foxes are about. Foxes are ruthless predators who will kill that. And I must just tell the story. The first time I ever put pheasants out on a shoot, didn't do this myself, but we put up a fence. And we had 150 pheasants in. And when I came down 2 days later, I could have cried. The fox had dug under, and there was a string of carcasses right up to the den. Now, this is what a fox does. A fox doesn't just take one. It's a ruthless killer. It doesn't kill to eat. It often kills for fun. But anyway, to go back to the tekel, as I remind people of Stephen's book on the tekels. His first one was very good. I haven't read the second one. But this is a sort of little dog that would have been criminalised. And we hope to see it with you at the fair doing your act, the Norfolk Poacher.
Yeah, I think probably George and everybody else involved in the fair, I'm itching to get back. Probably you are too. Well, you are. I know you are. I'm definitely itching to get back in the butcher's bike and do whatever else we do. But I just want to say before we go, I think we saw a difference. And I know this bill thing come back, 2010 I think was the last time, George, wasn't it? But this time I saw a massive difference. And whereas the last time I think a lot of the hound people and the dog people were maybe working on their own, would you say that, Gary? And this time has been a lot different. The shooting people have backed it up, the angling people, as we saw Jim Howe. Everybody has come together.
Yeah, everybody has come together,
Yeah,
and again, in our thanks, we made a point. It's not just Countryside Alliance Ireland that did this. It was the Working Terrier Federation, NARGC pulled their bits. Everybody come together, and it was fantastic to see.
I really saw that difference that everybody did. Even
and it was an all-Ireland response.
Absolutely, all-Ireland response, and everybody, it didn't matter whether they fished or shot, or where the last time maybe it was slightly different, but this time, and I think everybody's starting to realise now that this is what these people are out to do, and we have the power to stop them. I said that recently. We can take the seats from under any people, any party that wants to mess, and it's no problem. We're a big community, and we have the power.
That's the best way to send the message to them. Just say, no more.
We have the power, but I think we'll be looking forward to getting back, Albert,
and be very positive. So out of this threat can come a success.
Absolutely,
because I think it gives us a chance. It gives us a chance to have a show of strength.
Yeah.
And have the biggest game fair and a biggest exemplification of our sports.
Because I think a lot of people have woke up and went, you know what, actually, this is a threat and these people aren't going to stop. Well, they know that we can stop it because we have the numbers and we have the power.
We've got to think of this lax thing. This is what if hunting goes, shooting will go. And from what they say here, they might even put shooting above hunting.
Above hunting.
If lax can flex enough muscle and get enough politicians to support them. But hopefully, as you say, I hope to see a huge game fair, a huge living history. Go back to George. You've committed to a lot here, George. But I expect to see George playing a very big role in it, obviously Stephen and Gary. And I also hope to see John play there in a positive role.
Yeah.
Engaging with the country sports people, especially with his country sports constituents, and saying that perhaps he was wrong.
Yeah, and I would ask him again to take up my invitation.
Yeah.
I invited him for a day out to see how it works in ferreting and rabbit control and all that sort of thing, and it's maybe different than he thinks it is. So once again, the offer's there if he wants it.
And as I say, it will be good to see what we as country sports people, all of us, hunting, shooting, fishing can bring to the Antrim economy on the 25th and 26th of June at the Game Fair. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you enjoyed the live stream. We may do another one, but as I say, this was the second planned one. We apologise that the video of the Golden Retriever Championship show wasn't ready in time, but for those people who came in on the stream, they can get a limited edition, a very limited edition of the book on the Golden Retriever that I produced, a quarter leather bound one, which are very rare indeed, by simply putting down that they would like to enter the competition for it. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank John and Rebecca Walker for their help with this live streaming event and the previous one. John's father and I worked together at Queen's, and we had many happy times, and it's lovely to be working with his two children. Thank you.